Sis, I warmed up some milk for you. You must be tired. Drink this and get some rest. Hearing Tanya's voice sent a jolt through my entire body. In my past life, that very cup of milk was the beginning of my nightmare. My mom died from an illness when I was very young. Not long after, my dad brought home a new woman named Susan, along with her daughter, Tanya, who was only a few months younger than me. At first, the mother and daughter didn't show much hostility toward me. That all changed after graduation. My stunning looks got me noticed by a modeling agency, and step by step, I became an internationally famous supermodel. Tanya was green with envy. She turned to dark magic, using her own blood as a medium, mixing it into the milk she brought me every night to slowly steal my figure and my beauty. She took my place as an international supermodel, making millions a year, adored by everyone. Meanwhile, my face broke out in disgusting sores, and my body ballooned, costing me my career. Not only that, my stepmother Susan placed a cactus in my room that could absorb the luck of the person closest to it and make it her own. So after that, no matter how hard I tried, nothing ever went right for me. I drifted through life in a daze. One day, while crossing the street, I was hit by a car and rushed to the hospital. In the ICU, Tanya came to visit. She leaned over and whispered the whole truth in my ear. Mia, I was just jealous of you. Jealous that you were born with such a perfect body, that you could get so much attention and endless money without even trying. But it doesn't matter now. Hee, my mom and I were smart enough to steal your dad, so of course we were smart enough to steal your beauty, your fame, your fortune, everything. Oh, you didn't know? Next month, not only am I participating in the global supermodel competition, but I'm also getting engaged to your boyfriend, Chad. Too bad you probably won't be alive to see it. After the accident, my fragile heart and lungs couldn't take such a violent shock. I gasped for breath a few times, but my life was slipping away. All I could do was listen helplessly as the monitor flatlined with a long, piercing beep. Tanya feigned panic and ran out, screaming for help. My consciousness faded to black. Cease. Seeing that I hadn't responded for a while, Tanya prompted me again softly. I looked up and saw the jealousy and vicious anticipation hiding behind her carefully crafted expression of concern. I swallowed my rage and gently took the cup, setting it aside. Thanks, sis. I'll drink it in a bit. After she left my room, I closed the door, turned around, and poured the milk meant to steal my looks right into the soil of that luck-draining cactus. Milk mixed with blood would surely be much more close to that evil plant than I was, just sitting in the same room. This time around, I was going to see what happened when this mother-daughter duo turned on each other. A few minutes later, Tanya couldn't wait any longer and came in to check. Seeing the empty cup, she couldn't suppress a grin. Her eyes, already squeezed small by her chubby cheeks, practically disappeared. She volunteered to wash the cup for me. The moment the kitchen door opened, I could smell it from a distance, the lingering, greasy smell of fried food that the exhaust fan could never quite get rid of. Tanya was making herself a late-night snack of fried chicken. She actually took after her mom in terms of looks. Susan had a delicate, girl-next-door kind of beauty, so theoretically, her daughter shouldn't have been ugly at all. But when they first moved in, my stepmother and father would secretly make my life difficult to put me in my place. They'd make delicious home-cooked meals, but deliberately only give the good stuff to Tanya, just to see the disappointed look on my face. Tanya would happily stuff her face in front of me on purpose. Dad brought this pudding home for me after work. Sis, he didn't get you any. You're not mad, are you? At dinner, I took just one piece of sweet and sour pork, and Tanya acted like the world was ending. Dad, my mom always told me that I get to eat the whole plate of sweet and sour pork by myself. Now that we're in a new house, is my sister going to fight me for this too? My dad didn't like my mom's strong personality. He always felt she undermined his masculinity, and by extension, he didn't like me either. So he ordered that from then on, I could only eat the leftovers after the three of them had finished their meal. In a normal family, kids don't have that much to compare. It's mostly about what you eat and what you play with. Over time, Tanya's appetite grew larger and larger, and so did she. When she reached the age where girls start caring about their looks, she became insanely jealous of my figure. She had Dad let me eat at the table again, but she'd have Susan deliberately make me fried foods and sickly sweet desserts. By then, however, I was already making money as a model and ate specially prepared low-fat meals. They had no opportunity to mess with my diet. In my last life, when I saw Tanya eating fried food so late at night, I thought she'd given in to the pressures of dieting again and kindly advised her. Dieting is all about persistence. Your metabolism is weaker at night. Eating so much isn't just hard to digest, it's bad for your health. But she just smiled mysteriously. Sis, I don't care anymore. I think now what's meant to be will be. I might be fat, but who knows, maybe one day I'll suddenly get thin. Don't you think? Now I finally understood. She already knew she was going to switch bodies and faces with me. No matter how much she ate, the fat and acne would just end up on my body and my face. Following the smell, I walked into the kitchen and pretended to be interested. Making fried chicken, huh? Let me try some. Tanya clutched the plate in terror. No. Sis, you're a model. You have to watch your figure. I looked down pitifully. Sigh, that glass of milk you gave me just whetted my appetite. But you're right. Since I can't eat whatever I want, maybe you shouldn't prepare milk for me anymore. Otherwise, I won't be able to control myself. She panicked, her eyes darting around. Milk was probably the best drink she could find to cover up the smell of blood. Just as I was about to turn and leave, Tanya quickly stopped me. Wait, sis. Let me make you a low-sugar, low-fat snack to satisfy your craving. She flipped through cookbooks and made me a very complicated coconut protein pudding. Using the egg beater late at night even earned her a scolding from our dad, who was woken up by the noise. I ate it with satisfaction and told her that if I could have a dessert like this every day after my milk, I probably wouldn't crave other fattening snacks. She forced a smile, looking like she was bearing a great burden. Sure, no problem. I'll make you one every day. And so it went for over half a month. Every day, I'd take a cup of doctored milk from Tanya and, when she wasn't looking, pour it into the luck-draining cactus Susan had given me. Tanya, as usual, would make me a different low-sugar dessert every night before bed. It was exhausting, but she was happy to do it. After all, in her fantasy, she was nourishing her own future body. To avoid arousing her suspicion, I'd use makeup to create some spots on my face when I was at home, and I started wearing a mask whenever I went out. The cactus was gradually taking on her appearance. Her skin, once bumpy from all the oily, spicy, and sweet food, was starting to become smooth and radiant. Her stocky build had also improved significantly. She didn't dare to eat greasy food at home anymore, afraid of tempting me. So she'd go out to satisfy her cravings. The cactus on the table grew rounder by the day, its surface practically oozing oil. I tiptoed to her room and heard Tanya and Susan whispering inside, discussing their progress. The stuff that Master gave us actually works. Look, I've lost 20 pounds this week, and my stomach is so much smaller. I chuckled silently outside the door. Hadn't she noticed that it wasn't just her stomach that was smaller, but her whole body was becoming flat, like a cactus? Tanya's voice then dropped. But that bitch Mia's face is starting to break out, so why is her career still taking off? Is your cactus useless? Susan said. What's the rush? Her modeling career is so successful, a few days of bad luck won't show a difference. But look at me, I've started winning small prizes on lottery tickets lately. The amounts aren't huge, but it's never happened this often before. Tanya clicked her tongue in envy, then grumbled. Mom, you have to get one of those for me too. I've been having the worst luck lately. Of course she had. After all, the cactus that was siphoning luck for Susan was being exposed to Tanya's blood every day. Tanya had been plagued by minor injuries recently. She'd trip and fall while walking on a perfectly flat street, or get hit by some random flying object, or lose her keys, or break her phone. The day Susan won $200 from a lottery ticket, Tanya had a sudden case of food poisoning at work, and didn't make it to the bathroom in time. She flushed with shame just thinking about it. I haven't even been to work in days. So what if you don't go? Susan waved her hand dismissively. Once you've completely taken over Mia's looks, you can just take a couple of pictures, and the cash will come rolling in. Who needs a job? Tanya cheered up at the thought. The two of them excitedly started planning where they'd buy a house, and what luxury cars they'd get once they were rich. They'd clear out the designer stores at the mall every season. They'd even kick my dad to the curb. I couldn't be bothered to listen anymore, and was about to leave when I heard Tanya mention a name. I've been talking to Chad online for a while now. Once I lose a little more weight, I can meet him and we can be together. Then Mia will have absolutely nothing. In my past life, when I was with Chad, I never suspected he was cheating. We'd been together for years, and he was always so obedient and accommodating. Later, when Susan and Tanya's dark magic made me fat and ugly, costing me my job and bringing me constant misfortune, Chad gradually distanced himself from me. I understood. It was only natural that he wouldn't want to be with someone like that. But later in the ICU, hearing Tanya say she and Chad were about to get engaged so soon, I knew something was wrong. Now hearing her words, I realized Chad had been cheating for a long time. Since that was the case, I might as well give them a little push. I sent a message to Chad. Chad, I don't know what's wrong with me lately. I'm starting to gain weight, and I'm getting spots on my face. I'm covering it all up with makeup and clothes. At this rate, I don't think I can stay in the modeling industry. What do you think I should do? Chad, who usually replied instantly, didn't answer for a long time. The chat window just kept showing typing. Finally, he wrote back. Mia, have you been tired lately? If you're tired, you can take a break. But modeling is such a lucrative job, don't give it up so easily. I pressed on. If I quit, will you support me? Chad went completely silent. Not long after, Tanya came into my room. Sis, did you and Chad have a fight? Her tone was concerned, but the smirk on her face was impossible to hide. Perhaps because this time around, I hadn't started showing signs of weight gain and bad luck as quickly as in my past life. So she got impatient and decided to provoke me directly before her plan had even fully succeeded. I pretended to be annoyed. What's it to you? She giggled. Sis, what do you think? If you lost your beauty and your job, would Chad still love you? Oh, sis, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to stir up trouble. I just mean, for a handsome man like Chad, if you don't work hard, there's a whole line of people waiting for him, right? As she spoke, she spun around in front of me, as if showing something off. I twitched an eye. She looked like one of those trendy flattened croissants. She came into my room, said a few vague things, and then took the empty milk cup from my desk. Sis, you should cherish the days you have now. The next day, I went to the modeling agency wearing a mask, only to find Tanya there. And holding her arm was none other than Chad. When he saw me, Chad guiltily looked away. Tanya, however, saw my mask and a flash of delight crossed her eyes. She greeted me cheerfully. Well, sis, surprise. I got hired as a print model too. I look forward to working with you. My eyes raked over her from head to toe without any pretense of politeness. Oh, you got signed as a model? Who signed you? My stare stung her, and she looked like she was about to lash out. But then she seemed to remember something and forced herself to hold it in. Don't you worry, sis. You'll soon find out how I became a model. She followed her new agent, strutting off to the photo studio in her high heels. I turned to face Chad. He couldn't meet my eyes and mumbled. Mia, I'm sorry. I still love you. But you said that as a model, you can't have children to maintain your figure. But as a man, how can I not have a child to carry on the family name? Tanya is different. Tanya said that even though she's also a model, she's not afraid of having kids. She's confident she can have as many as she wants without it affecting her figure. Tell me, why can't you be more like her? I asked. My decision not to have children isn't something I made today. Are you breaking up with me because of that? Or is it because I told you the other day that my body and face were having issues and it might affect my job, so you couldn't wait to dump me? Chad's face turned beet red. Mia, you're always so aggressive. When will you learn to be gentle and understanding like your sister? Since you already know you can't make it in this business anymore, why can't you just show me some weakness? Weakness? I had money and looks. In my past life, I put up with it at home for the sake of some illusion of family, but that didn't mean I had to be a doormat outside. Why should I show weakness to a freeloader who lived off me? I scoffed. You made your bed, now lie in it. I wondered if Chad would still treasure Tanya's gentle and understanding nature when she ended up looking like I did in my last life. I went to the company's runway practice room and worked on my walk and facial expressions over and over. I didn't wear any makeup today, specifically so I could see the most minute changes in my expression when I reviewed the recordings. The global supermodel competition that I missed in my past life would not be a regret this time. I practiced my walk again and again, letting my body commit the perfect muscle memory. My assistant brought me some water. Mia, you have no idea what a diva that new girl Tanya is. The photo team asked her to adjust her pose, but she insisted on doing it her own way, pouting and sticking her butt out. She needs a break every 5 minutes. It's impossible to work with her. And just now, when the makeup artist was touching her up, she noticed Tanya's neck was looking a little green. The moment she mentioned it, Tanya started shouting that it was a high-end olive skin tone, and that the makeup artist was unprofessional. Mia, why on earth did you let someone like her in? That's right. I was the one who spoke to my agent and pulled some strings to get Tanya in. I wanted her to get everything she ever wanted, and then fall from the clouds. I gave my assistant a mysterious smile. Just you wait and see. By the way, is the live stream equipment I asked you to set up running? It's on, it's been live the whole time. The liability waivers for the stream were in her contract too. We had a whole speech prepared to gloss over it. But when Tanya signed, she didn't look at anything except the payment section. I opened the live stream for the studio where Tanya was. The title was, A Day in the Life of a Print Model You Never Knew. I even paid to boost its visibility. As soon as I clicked, I saw her slumped over in a chair, taking a break, imperiously ordering someone to go buy her fried chicken and candy apples. The live comments were a stream of hate. Is this job really that easy to make money? She's taken 8 breaks in the last half hour. No way, I've seen professional models on shoots. It's hard work, nothing like this. Who is this person? How big of a star is she? Has anyone else noticed her body shape is weird? It's not about being fat or thin. And is it the lighting? Why does her skin look greener and greener? I put my phone away, put my mask back on, and walked out to the reception area. Tanya, who had just come out for a breather, saw me and smirked. Sis, why aren't you in the studio? Don't tell me your face has gotten so bad you can't get any shoots. With that, she popped a greasy piece of fried chicken into her mouth, chewing with satisfaction. Everyone else around who smelled it looked disgusted, but she was completely oblivious. I glanced at the staff member behind me holding the live stream camera, and he nodded at me. I took out my phone and sent a message to Susan. Susan, thank you and Tanya for taking care of me all this time. I see you've been enjoying scratch-off lottery tickets lately, so I bought you a whole book of them to play with. They're under the coffee table in the living room. Whatever you win is yours. Good luck. After sending it, I locked my phone and looked directly at Tanya. Do you think being a print model is some easy job? Ask any of the senior models here. Which one of them doesn't work for hours on end once a shoot starts? Poses and expressions have to be fine-tuned over and over. Do you really think having a pretty face is all it takes? Do you think the stylists, lighting crew, and prop team behind you have it any easier? Tanya's green face flushed red. You, what right do you have to lecture me? You've enjoyed such an easy life for so many years just because of that seductive face of yours. Now that you see I'm about to replace you, you can't wait to put me down. I'm telling you, you can forget it. With that, she ripped off my mask and shouted to everyone around. Come on everyone, take a look. See what your great model Mia's face looks like now. And not only that, she's going to get fatter and fatter. The only pillar you'll be able to rely on in the future is me. I suggest you all be a little nicer to me. Everyone stared at her like she was a circus monkey. Seeing that she wasn't getting the reaction she wanted, she turned around to look at me, confused. Then she screamed, Impossible. How can your face be completely unchanged? She lunged at me, trying to rub my face with her fingers. You must be wearing makeup. Assistant. Where the hell are you? Get me some makeup remover now. Smack. I slapped her so hard she fell to the floor. If I didn't hit her now, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to later. Tanya held her face, looking at me in disbelief. You dared to hit me. Fine, you're finished, you. She suddenly yelped as if something had pricked her, and lifted the hand she'd used to brace herself on the floor. She looked at her palm, confused, and saw it was covered in tiny white dots. She tried pressing them, and found they were painful. Then she gasped and jumped up from the floor. Ouch. What's pricking me? Why do the soles of my feet feel it too? While she was itching all over, the people around her suddenly cried out in alarm. Look, what's that growing out of Tanya's body? Not just the people there, but everyone watching the live stream saw what she was becoming. Oh my God, what is that monster? It looks like a cactus. That's right. Her green skin and flat, collapsed body shape, it's just like a cactus. Holy crap, it's a monster. At the same time, messages from Susan kept flooding my phone. Oh, thank you, Mia. Now that you've said that, I can rest easy. Sigh, you probably don't know yet, but I just scratched off a $5 million winner from the lottery tickets you gave me. Huh, but you already said it was a gift and whatever I won was mine. I even took a screenshot. My dear Mia, Tanya and I should be thanking you. All this time, it wasn't us taking care of you, it was you taking care of us. You might not understand, but don't worry, I think you'll find out very soon. I smiled. The luck needed to win $5 million was the result of me saving up several days' worth of blood-laced milk and pouring it all onto the cactus last night. The moment Susan used that luck to win $5 million, Tanya's own luck would be instantly depleted, turning into a cactus in front of everyone, which also fulfilled the requirement of being unlucky. Wasn't it all just falling into place? Tanya, do you like my gift? The Tanya before me was still screaming. White cactus spines were pushing out from under her skin, one by one. They didn't draw much blood, but the sight of them covering her body was enough to make your skin crawl. Chad, who had been standing by her side, sharing her animosity towards me, took a terrified step back. Tanya was still reaching for him, screaming, Chad, save me. Quick, find me a soft blanket or something. It hurts so much. Chad pretended not to hear, yelling monster, as he ran away. People were in a panic. Someone called an ambulance. As Tanya was being lifted onto the stretcher, she was still cursing. The stretcher was pulled taut, so the spines growing out of her body were being pushed back into her. A pain comparable to a bed of nails. I ignored her cries, straightened my clothes, and went home. The live stream footage must have gone viral by now. There was still a good show waiting for me at home. The moment I opened the door, a ceramic cup came flying at my head. It shattered against the doorframe, and a shard nearly hit my eye. You have the nerve to come back. I wiped my face and smiled. Why wouldn't I have the nerve? I'm not the one who turned into a giant cactus. Susan shrieked. You. That's enough, my father said, irritably stopping his screeching stepwife. What exactly happened? How did Tanya turn into that? He looked at me. Mia, you tell me. As I grew up and became beautiful and successful, my dad had started to occasionally favor me over the increasingly overweight Tanya, but I would never forget how he used to team up with them to put me down when I was a child, nor would I forget that he had cheated on my mother just a few months after I was born. But now wasn't the time to settle that score. I answered obediently. Tanya always wanted to be a model. I saw she'd lost some weight recently, so I secretly pulled some strings to get her a trial at our company. I never expected something like this to happen. Susan pointed a finger at me. You're lying. You deliberately set Tanya up to be humiliated in front of everyone. Otherwise, why was there a live stream camera in her studio and no one else's? I threw up my hands. You have to give a little extra when you pull strings. I wanted her to film a day in the life of a print model, to generate some buzz for the company. Besides, it was all written in the contract. If she didn't agree, she didn't have to sign. Susan was speechless. She turned and tugged at my dad's sleeve, looking pitiful. Honey, you have to save Tanya. How is she supposed to live her life looking like this? I cut in. Have you been to the hospital to see Tanya? They both froze. Of course. I knew it. My dad had a moderately successful career now. Tanya's monstrous transformation was all over the internet. With friends, family, and business partners to think of, he couldn't afford the embarrassment. And Susan had just won $5 million. When they realized their daughter had contracted some bizarre disease that was clearly a bottomless pit of expenses, wouldn't they think of themselves first? If either of them had truly loved their daughter, they wouldn't have let her eat herself into that state in the first place without intervening. Wasn't that just them looking out for number one? Now they were acting like they wanted to stick up for Tanya, but what they really wanted was for me to take over this mess. Neither of them wanted that hot potato of a cactus. A match made in heaven, I thought. But as her older sister, how could I truly abandon my own sibling? I said, Dad, Susan, don't worry. Tanya is my sister. Even if you didn't ask, I'd take responsibility for her. I went back to my room and found the cactus on my desk was gone. After seeing what happened to Tanya, and connecting it with the recent events, Susan must have realized that the luck she was absorbing was coming from her own daughter. But with my dad there, she couldn't say anything. And even if she dared as the one benefiting, she might not have wanted to. But she also didn't dare let me get my hands on that strange cactus again. Who knew what other schemes I might cook up with it to use against her? I figured she'd probably gotten rid of it, so I checked the security camera I'd installed in my room to confirm. To my surprise, I saw her hiding the plant under my bed. She must have gotten a taste of the good luck and couldn't bear to give it up. That was just perfect. Life at home was eerily calm. Besides my occasional visits to the hospital to see Tanya, Susan and my dad acted as if they'd never had that daughter. I brought a lunchbox to the hospital. The hospital had never seen a case like this before, so they could only give her a private room and use a laser to remove the spines from her body every day, just so she could lie down in peace. As for the bleeding holes and green skin left behind, no one had the energy or the solution to deal with them. I placed the lunchbox next to her, took out the low-fat meal inside, and started eating it myself. Tanya glared at me, her eyes practically shooting fire. "You did this, didn't you?" I took a spoonful of steamed pumpkin and said, "Nope. You're lying. If it wasn't you, who else could it be? Where's my mom? Why haven't they come to see me? Your parents have abandoned you." I took another spoonful of mixed grain rice. "The video of you turning into a monster is all over the internet. Your parents are too embarrassed. You should be grateful to me. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't even have anyone to pay your medical bills." Tanya shook her head, muttering over and over, "Impossible." I showed her the messages from Susan bragging about her $5 million win, letting her know that Susan wasn't broke, she just wasn't willing to spend the money on her. "Your mom has gone off to live the good life. With your luck and the money she already has, she and Dad can have any kind of child they want. Don't even think about it. If she really loved you, why would she have fed you like a pig just to spite me when you were little? She let you stuff your face, but she never touched a greasy thing herself. She knew exactly what she was doing." I finished my meal, cleared the table, and glanced down at her before leaving the room. Tanya was stunned, overwhelmed by all the new information. I fanned the flames one last time. "Think about it. How would I have known there was something wrong with the milk you gave me out of the blue? She's been tired of you for a long time." Her eyes glinted. I said no more and left the room. Susan was having the time of her life. The cactus continued to siphon luck for her. She was no longer satisfied with lottery tickets, she had started playing the stock market. In contrast, my dad's business began to plummet. A project that was halfway to completion would suddenly be snatched by a competitor, or a key partner would back out of a deal without warning. Project delays led to a tight cash flow. Team members started leaving, and eventually, there was even an internal leak of confidential information. He wanted to investigate but came up empty-handed. He thought he could resolve the problems quickly, but things stagnated, and he ended up deep in debt. At his wit's end, he wanted to sell the house. Susan, shedding her usual gentle demeanor, immediately filed for divorce. "You're a grown man who's fallen so low you have to sell your house. Why should I stay with you?" Divorce. We split the assets 50-50. My dad hated nothing more than being ordered around by a woman. Combined with his recent string of misfortunes, the two of them started fighting. "You damn whore. If you hadn't thrown yourself at me and climbed into my bed back then, you think I would have even looked at someone like you? Oh please. You can't control yourself and you blame others. Did I pull your pants down for you?" They went at it, trading insults and blows, revealing each other's secrets, their foul language filling the air. I stood in the middle yelling, "Stop fighting." All the while, I was darting around, and amidst the chaos, I dragged out the suitcase I had already packed and left for the new apartment I had prepared. Bye-bye to this family. Later, I heard a neighbor called the police when the noise got too loud. Dad's I was nearly blinded by Susan. But the home security footage proved he had thrown the first punch. And since Susan was also injured, the matter was dropped. Ultimately, Susan sued for divorce and got half of the assets. My dad had used up almost all of his savings trying to pay off his debts. He finally thought to ask me for help, but I had already moved out during the chaos and changed my contact information. He had neglected me for years and had no way of finding me or getting in touch. When the verdict finally came down, he knelt on the floor in despair. The man who never wanted a woman to walk all over him was ultimately ruined by one. Susan didn't know that on the last night I poured milk into the cactus, I had already hidden the real magic plant in my dad's study. The one she hid under my bed was just a regular cactus I had prepared in advance. With her half of the assets, her life became even more prosperous, and she didn't seem to care as much about being able to absorb my luck anymore. She bought a new house and began a life of luxury. The fact that I had moved out seemed to have no effect on her at all. Susan gradually became known as a stock market guru among her circle, and she was immensely pleased with herself. At the urging of some people I had arranged, she started a stock market training class. For $10,000 a month, people could join her group, where she guaranteed they would make a steady profit. Such a good opportunity, of course, had to be shared. I created a burner account, pretending to be a naive, sweet, rich girl in an online relationship, and added Chad. After chatting with him for a few days, I casually recommended Susan's group to him. Chad, my dad said I can't marry a guy from a normal family, but I really like you. I saw this group on my dad's computer. He said it's really useful. I don't understand any of this stuff. Why don't you give it a try? Chad hesitated. When it came to spending money, he was always cautious. Without another word, I sent him $30,000. Chad, just think of it as getting some experience. If you really become a millionaire, we can be together openly. On the other end, Chad immediately accepted the transfer. Candy, you're so good to me. Not like my ex-girlfriend. I told her I wanted to invest and asked to borrow some money, and she was always going on about how risky it was, and that I shouldn't get involved. I told her, fortune favors the bold. Which of those rich guys wasn't the first one to take a risk? If you're timid your whole life, how can you ever strike it rich? Candy, thank you for believing in me. I won't let you down. I smiled, sent him a "you got this" emoji, and then stopped responding to the delusional man who thought he could get rich overnight. He only knew that rich people started from nothing, but he couldn't see how many had failed before them. Since he was so confident, let him be. Riding on her previous luck, Susan enjoyed a few good months. Everyone who followed her saw their stocks rise. Amidst the constant praise, she lost herself, starting to believe she was born a genius. Chad was also constantly messaging his online girlfriend Candy, me to brag. Candy, thank you so much. If it wasn't for you, I would have never found such a reliable inside source. I bought a few stocks with Sister Susan, and I've already made several $100,000. With this next one, I'm going to turn my life around. Just wait for me to come visit. After confirming that he had invested all his money in the stock market, I unfriended and deleted the account, as if it had never existed. Soon Susan's stock group was in the news. Because she had promised guaranteed returns and lacked the proper financial investment qualifications, she was suspected of illegal fundraising. The members of the group jointly sued her. The court ordered her to pay damages. Her previous earnings, including the lottery prize, had long been squandered on her extravagant lifestyle. Where would she find the money to compensate them? At her wit's end, Susan finally remembered the luck-draining cactus. She went back to the old, unsold house, intending to secretly retrieve the plant from under my bed, but she found someone was already waiting for her inside. Tanya was wrapped up from head to toe, but the smell of blood and sweat still hung in the air. Susan instinctively covered her nose and mouth, a look of disgust on her face. This simple gesture completely set Tanya off. She shrieked, "I'm your own daughter. I turned into this because of the dark magic you sought. What right do you have to be disgusted by me?" Susan looked a little guilty. "What did I do to you? It's your own fault for not being good enough. Otherwise, how did I manage to win the lottery and live a good life with me as luck? If you're not capable, don't blame others. I'm your daughter. And you know you're my daughter? Is that any way to talk to your mother? No respect." With that, she ignored Tanya and went straight to my room to find the cactus. Tanya's eyes turned red with rage. When Susan came out holding the pot, Tanya saw the cactus that looked exactly like she did now, and she couldn't hold it in any longer. She snatched the cactus, threw it on the floor, and started stomping on it. Susan, caught off guard, let out a desperate scream. My plant. My luck." She slapped Tanya hard across the face. "You useless little bitch. You just can't stand to see anyone else happy." Tanya gave a bitter smile. "Mom, did you ever really love me as your child? You had me just to compete with Mia's mother. You were nice to me only to spite Mia. Now that I'm useless, you're throwing me away, right?" Susan seemed moved by her words, but in the end, she still walked around her, opened the front door, and prepared to leave. But just as she reached the top of the stairs, Tanya suddenly attacked without warning. She grabbed her mother, and together they tumbled down the stairs. Susan was on the bottom. Her head hit the steps hard, and blood pooled on the floor. Tanya was knocked unconscious. Hearing the commotion, the neighbors opened their doors. Seeing the scene, they quickly called for an ambulance again. Susan had a massive brain hemorrhage. It was too late to save her. While Tanya was unconscious, the spines on her body started to grow out again, leaving small, bloody spots all over the bedsheets. When I went to see her, she had just woken up and was muttering to herself, "No, this isn't right. This isn't how it's supposed to be. How did I become like this? I'm a supermodel. I'm an international supermodel." I knew then that she had probably been reborn too. When she saw me, she lunged, trying to attack me. "Mia, you bitch. This is all your fault." I dodged, and she missed, the spines on her body piercing her own skin. She howled in pain. I said coldly, "I wasn't the one who wanted to harm you. It was always you who brought this upon yourselves." She started cursing, then wailing, looking completely insane. I enjoyed the sight of her downfall for a while before leaving, satisfied. This was good. She was back. Now my revenge was truly complete. As for her future, she could be a specimen donated to science. For research. Just as I stepped out of the hospital, a disheveled figure lunged at me. Mia, you have to save me. It's me, Chad. I owe money to loan sharks. They're going to kill me." The man before me had greasy, messy hair, his face covered in dirt and stubble. He looked nothing like the man who had once charmed Tanya. His clothes reeked. He kept babbling. "It was that damn bitch online. She tricked me into investing all my money in the stock market. Mia, you were always the best to me. I know you still love me. Let's get back together, okay? I'll never cheat again. You're my queen. I'll only be good to you from now on." His crazed behavior attracted the hospital security guards. As they dragged him away, he was still shouting, Mia, I'm begging you, give me one more chance." His voice faded with the wind. To me, it was nothing more than the barking of a dog. I returned to the old house. It was soon to be auctioned off by the court to compensate the victims. But it would be a drop in the bucket. I retrieved the real luck-draining plant from the study. By now, the cactus had taken on the humanoid shape Tanya once had, fleshy, fat, and glistening with oil. I lit it on fire and burned it, then left that house for good without a second glance. The weather outside was beautiful. The global supermodel competition was less than a month away. This time, I was going to enjoy the beautiful life that should have been mine all along. Let's clear our minds and listen to the next story. To cure my husband's debilitating muscular disease and make him a normal man again, I gave him the system's only healing power. He swore he'd cherish me, love me, and protect me from any harm for the rest of his life. Later, when I had a heart attack, he was off bungee jumping and riding roller coasters with his assistant, embracing her through all the thrilling rides. As I was on the verge of cardiac arrest, the doctor called my husband. He said nonchalantly, "If she dies, she dies. What's her life worth anyway?" He was busy celebrating his assistant's birthday, and at that moment, I finally gave up on him. I silently prayed, "System, take back his healing power. He doesn't deserve it." My body gradually recovered, while Ethan's disease returned, and he begged me to save him. I was lying on a cold operating table as doctors frantically worked to save me. I heard a doctor's urgent voice on the phone with Ethan. "Hello, is this the patient's family? The patient is in critical condition. Please get to the hospital as soon as possible." I thought Ethan would be anxious, worried, scared. But instead a sneer came through the phone. "If she dies, she dies. What's her life worth? I'm Buse. Don't bother me with such trivial matters." The system, which had been silent for a long time, suddenly spoke up. "Host, Ethan is celebrating that assistant's birthday right now. The system has detected a drop in his sincerity value towards you. Was it really worth giving him the only healing power?" Hearing Ethan's heartless words now, I felt numb. I let out a long sigh and said to the system, "System, stop maintaining Ethan's health. He doesn't deserve it." Hearing my command, the system replied with excitement, "Roger that, host. Reclaiming Ethan's health. Your heart condition will be restored to normal over the next month. At the end of the month, Ethan will be left with a useless body." I gave a small bitter laugh. Good. After that, I fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up, I was in a hospital room that reeked of disinfectant. The woman in the next bed saw I was awake and said, "And then, you made it through another day. The doctor came by earlier, and said you're a fighter. They were resuscitating you for almost 20 minutes, and were about to give up when your heart suddenly started beating again. I weakly turned my head to look at her. She was a thin, frail young woman. After I was admitted for my heart condition, her optimism was what kept me going. I smiled and said, "It's because you told me we were born to fight against fate and never give up." After a week in the hospital, I was finally discharged. When I returned to our house, the yard was filled with blooming roses, their fragrance filling the air. Ethan knew roses were my favorite, and he had planted them all himself. Roses require a lot of fertilizer and care. No matter how busy he was with work before, he would always prune and fertilize them himself. Now the roses had grown wild, their branches sprawling onto the pebble path, making the place look like a neglected, ruined garden. Ding! A text message came in. I opened it. It was Chloe again, sending me updates on her life with Ethan. "Thanks for curing Ethan's illness. But so what? Now he'll do anything I want. He went polar plunging in the Arctic for me. All the insurance companies sent people to talk him out of it, but he just wanted to show me he could do it, so he went in." The video showed Ethan, shirtless, getting into the icy river. The piercing cold made his body tremble, but he gritted his teeth and made a passionate declaration to Chloe. "Chloe, for you, I'd risk my life to do the things you love. You like extreme challenges, so I'll do them with you." He took a deep breath and shouted, "Chloe, I love you." He pinched his nose and plunged his head under the ice. Chloe cried, her sobs audible. "Ethan, I love you too." Seeing this, my heart still ached. "I gave my life to make you healthy, and this is how you repay me." Ethan and I went to the same high school. We were desk mates. I had a weak heart, and he would make me laugh when I was sad, chat with me, and give me lots of snacks. When I was being bullied by the school jock, he walked over with a basketball and beat the guy up. He declared to everyone, "She's my desk mate. Who do you think you are, picking on her? As long as I'm her desk mate, I've got her back." Even after our seats were changed, he never let anyone lay a finger on me, making my entire high school experience happy and joyful. After college graduation, I heard he had fallen ill, seriously ill. I quit my job and ran to take care of him. I didn't mind his incontinence, tending to him like a personal maid. When his family mocked him, I stood up for him. Even when his own parents began to neglect him, he became fragile, sensitive, and easily angered. I told him again and again that he would get better. I massaged his limbs, insisted he do exercises, and found renowned doctors for him. In truth, I already had a heart condition back then. I had accidentally bonded with a health system. I could have lived a normal life, but instead, I begged the system to make Ethan better. "Host, my power can only heal one person. If I give it to Ethan, your heart condition will relapse." I answered firmly, "I'm willing to give up my own treatment for Ethan." The system said helplessly, "All right, I will apply for a one-time reversal chance for you. If you ever regret it, just tell me, and I will return the healing power to you." I thought I would never need it. I couldn't have been more wrong, just 3 years into our marriage. I took screenshots of all of Chloe's messages, sent her a thumbs down emoji, and then blocked her. Enjoy your healthy lover while you can. He's going to be a cripple again soon enough. I wonder if you'll still love him then. I called the housekeeper over. "Take down all the decorations in the house and burn them." The housekeeper was confused. "Ma'am, you decorated all of this yourself. You even fell and broke a bone trying to get the curtains just right. Why burn it all now? If the master made you angry, we can talk to him." They had seen Ethan bring Chloe home many times. They knew what was going on. Could things really be resolved by talking? I didn't want to hear it. I raised a hand to cut her off. "I told you to take it down. Do you not want your salary?" The housekeeper fell silent and called the other maids to help take down all the decorations. I had them pile everything in the backyard and set it on fire. When I tossed our wedding photo into the flames, the housekeeper looked like she wanted to say something, but she was afraid of having her pay docked, so she just did as she was told. I packed up everything in the house that belonged to me. Whatever could be burned was burned. One of the maids secretly called Ethan. He was completely unconcerned. So she burned it. So what? It's just a little tantrum. It's nothing to me. When she runs out of money, she'll come back begging. At the same time, $1 million was transferred into my account. A message from him popped up in our long silent chat. He sent a few short lines. I'm working with my assistant. What kind of tantrum are you throwing now? If you want to burn it, burn it. I was getting sick of the pink decor anyway. Change it to off-white. White was Chloe's favorite color. Her clothes, her bags, even the car she pestered Ethan into buying were all white. In the past, I would have grilled him about it, but now, I accepted the money without a second thought. I considered it payment for all the years I took care of him. Feeling it wasn't enough, I typed out another message and sent it. $1 million isn't enough. Send another 5. I'm redecorating. My body was still very weak. The system told me that it would take a whole month to slowly repair my body. After all that, I was already exhausted. I went to my room, planning to take a nap. I don't know how long I slept, but I heard Ethan come back, his voice mixed with Chloe's soft tones. Ethan, Anan is still here. It's one thing for you to bring me back, but hey, you can't touch there, I'm ticklish. A man's aggressive voice followed. Be quiet. You think a woman like her can tell me what to do? Let me have a taste. The bed suddenly dipped, and I was thrown forward with a cry. I clutched my chest and turned on the bedside lamp. A man and a woman were lying at the foot of the bed, all 4 eyes suddenly staring at me. Chloe's clothes were half off, and Ethan's hand was still on her chest. It was obvious what they were doing. Chloe was the first to react. She grabbed her clothes and stammered an explanation. Anan, it's not what you think. Ethan and I were just playing around. Don't misunderstand. A flash of panic crossed Ethan's eyes, but he quickly composed himself. He pulled Chloe's slender waist closer and looked at me. What man doesn't have a few lovers? Don't be so petty. I gave you the position of Mrs. Sue, a life of luxury and security for the rest of your days. What more could you be unhappy about? His tone turned contemptuous. For someone from the countryside like you, marrying into my family is a blessing from your ancestors. Your position as my wife will never change. You should be happy. A bitter smile touched my lips. That's not what you said when I was taking care of you when you were paralyzed. He had said, what's the use of so much money in this world? It's just a pile of paper. I think having someone who truly cares for you is the most precious thing in the world. I may be disabled, but in having you, I have the world's greatest treasure. He used to treasure me so much, his deep affection moving me beyond words. Now he was attacking me with cheap words, making me feel like all these years I'd been a fool. I didn't argue. I didn't make a scene. I just held out my hand to Ethan. Fair enough. In that case, please transfer me another payment. This is the fee for my silence. Hearing me ask for money, his face darkened, his eyes held a complex expression. After transferring the money, he said angrily, "You're really obsessed with money." He pulled Chloe out of the house, heading for the seaside villa he had bought for her to spend some quality time alone. I was left by myself in the empty house. Ethan didn't notice that many things were missing from the rooms, or that even the maids were gone. But none of that mattered anymore. On the 3rd day, something happened to Ethan. He was admitted to the hospital. The system told me, "Host, a sliver of the healing power has returned to you." At the same time, Ethan has started to experience intermittent relapses. He will slowly feel his body becoming weak, but in the early stages, it will only be for short periods. After a month, he will lose all function. I also noticed I wasn't as tired today, and my breathing was much easier. I went to the hospital to visit Ethan. Chloe was weakly slumped by the bed, her eyes red and swollen as she apologized. "Ethan, it's all my fault. I just had to have fresh sea urchins. If I hadn't wanted them, you wouldn't have dived down to get them for me." Fortunately, there were professionals nearby, and he angrily picked up. "Silly girl, I'm perfectly fine. It was just a leg cramp. I lost my strength for a moment." Chloe rested her head on Ethan's chest, looking blissful. He saw me and gave me a triumphant smirk. I let out a soft laugh. Just then a doctor walked in, his face serious. He said to Ethan, "Mr. Sue, your test results are back. Your near-drowning incident wasn't due to a cramp. I suspect your old muscular disease is starting to relapse." Ethan refused to believe his disease was back. He got angry, picked up a glass of water from the table, and threw it at the doctor's head. "My disease was cured. If you don't know how to be a doctor, you can go to the dean tomorrow and resign." The Sue family was a major investor in this hospital. The doctor clutched his injured forehead, said nothing, and left the room. Seeing me, Ethan's face soured. Didn't you call me before saying you weren't feeling well? Why are you running around? I looked at the lovey-dovey pair and said nothing. Ethan glanced up at me, then sighed. Just behave and don't cause trouble. Come here and massage my legs. His tone was as gentle as it used to be, but I said with a hint of disgust, massaging legs and taking personal care of you is a job for your little lover here. She'd be more willing. Since you seem to be doing fine, I won't disturb your private time. My calm, non-confrontational demeanor seemed to make Ethan uncomfortable. He said, your massage skills can't compare to Chloe's anyway. You're no help here. Since you're going back, stop by Shun's and get Chloe some breakfast. She likes their buns and soy milk. Making the wife go buy food for the mistress. It made me feel more and more disgusted. I remembered what my mom once told me. Once a man becomes wealthy, his ambition and his desires grow. My mom and dad were once the picture-perfect couple, the envy of everyone. But then my mom became a full-time housewife for our family. After giving birth to me, a child with a heart condition, he started staying out all night. When my mom asked, my dad would get angry. You gave birth to a sickly child. If I don't work overtime to earn money for you too, are you going to earn it? My mom felt guilty and could only swallow her grievances, serving my dad well, and focusing on raising me at home. One night, my mom saw my dad downstairs with his arm around a young girl, heading into the next building over. From then on, my mom knew. My dad wasn't working overtime to earn money, he had another woman. My mom eventually divorced my dad, choosing to leave with nothing. My mom raised me by herself, working hard to support us. When I quit my job to take care of Ethan, my mom tried to stop me. You come from a humble background, you don't have any power. He's only with you because you were with him during his lowest point. He might feel something for you, but once he's better, you'll just be the woman who no longer excites him, and he'll start to despise you. At the time, I disagreed with my mom. We had a huge fight, and I said a lot of hurtful things to her. You can't just project your own unhappiness onto me. Just because you're not happy doesn't mean I won't be. We have each other. He said I would be the only woman for him for the rest of his life. I was so wrong. Men really are all scum, just like my mom said. I took the millions from my bank account and went back to my mom's house. The moment she saw me, a flash of excitement crossed her face, but her tone was cold. What are you doing back here? I'm very busy right now. I don't have time to entertain the great Mrs. Sue. With tears in my eyes, my voice choked up as I called out, Mom! I just wanted to come back and see you. I didn't need to say much more. My mom knew I had been wronged. She sighed, put down the handicraft she was working on, and went into the kitchen to cook me a bowl of beef noodles. It was my favorite dish since I was a child. Eating my mom's noodles made me feel a little better. After I finished eating, my mom said, Anan, I named you Anan hoping you would be healthy and peaceful your whole life. If you're ever unhappy, you can always come back to me. As long as I have food to eat, you won't go hungry or cold. That night, I cried in my mom's arms, the pain gnawing at me. On the surface, I always thought I was strong. If the love was gone, it was gone. But when it's really time to let go, the pain in your heart doesn't lie. But Ethan, I truly didn't want him anymore. He felt like a stranger, a disgusting one. I stayed with my mom for a few days, doing crafts and going shopping with her. I bought her clothes and transferred all the money from my card to hers. On the 7th day, Grandma Sue had someone call me to the old family estate. When I arrived, Grandma Sue took my hand, her voice tense. Anan, you're finally here. Where is that famous doctor you hired before? I calmed Grandma Sue down. Grandma, what's wrong? After the doctor cured Ethan, he disappeared. I haven't been able to contact him. This famous doctor was just someone I hired to play a part. I wanted to keep the existence of the system a secret. Something like that was too strange. If the wrong people found out, they might capture me, which would be bad for me. But I wasn't worried about the Sue family finding him. The man I hired was from a family of doctors, but he had cancer. I gave him a sum of money, and he agreed to play along. He's long since turned to dust. Grandma Sue, her face etched with worry, led me into a room. Ethan was asleep on the bed, one leg hanging off the edge. Anan, do you think Ethan's muscular disease is relapsing? I heard he nearly drowned while diving, and this time he was driving himself when he suddenly couldn't press the brake. His ankle had no strength. He hit a street light. Luckily, he wasn't going fast, otherwise it would have been more than just an injured leg. Listening to Grandma Sue, a flicker of emotion crossed my eyes. Then I said, the famous doctor did tell me that although the disease was cured, he shouldn't do any overly strenuous activities, or it could trigger a relapse. When I said that, the faces of everyone present showed a mix of emotions. If Ethan went back to how he was before, with the muscular disease, then who knew who would end up in charge of the company? When she heard the famous doctor was gone, Grandma Sue's expression turned grim. In this family, Grandma Sue cared for Ethan the most. After her eldest grandson recovered, she used her influence to put him in charge of the company. Now, if Ethan returned to his previous state, she wouldn't be able to protect him. Suddenly, the sound of an argument erupted outside. I could faintly hear Chloe's voice. Let me in. I need to be with Ethan. I'm begging you. Chloe, looking pitiful and wronged, ignored the butler's attempts to stop her and insisted on seeing Ethan. Seeing her, Grandma Sue became very angry. Who do you think you are? Daring to barge into the Sue family estate? Drag her out and throw her by the gate. I chimed in from the side. She is Ethan's assistant. Grandma Sue rolled her eyes. Assistant? Instead of doing her job, she's here making a scene. What is wrong with her? Is the company's HR department useless? What kind of people are they hiring? Just as the butler was about to drag Chloe out, I was knocked to the ground. Ethan, ignoring his cast, had run out on crutches and pushed the butler away, roaring. Who gave you permission to bully her? Let her go. Chloe threw herself into Ethan's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Ethan, I heard you were in a car accident. I was so scared. Sobi. Ethan held the woman in his arms. Even though he was unsteady on his feet, he forced himself to stand tall. Hold on. I'm fine, see? Silly girl. The others in the room were used to this. Only Grandma Sue was getting worked up. Ethan, how could you touch another woman in front of an? Do you still have any respect for your wife? You're being so reckless. What if your leg gets worse? Ethan said nonchalantly. Grandma, what's the big deal? An marrying into our family was the luckiest thing that ever happened to her. What right does she have to complain? Besides, it's normal for a man to want some novelty. And Grandma, my leg is just sprained. It's not a relapse. Don't be so nervous. Grandma Sue was trembling with anger. Seeing she couldn't win the argument, she fell silent. I could clearly feel several hostile gazes on me, filled with mockery and contempt. I remember the first year after I married Ethan. A young heiress whose arranged marriage had fallen through came looking for trouble. They mocked me for being a woman who couldn't be presented in high society, and even hired a few men to try and ruin my reputation. The moment I was in danger, Ethan rushed out to protect me, not allowing anyone to slander me. He was very concerned about my feelings, afraid I would be traumatized. He used his influence to force the heiress who led the bullying to apologize to me, as a warning to others. After that, many people were polite to me, but deep down they still looked down on me. They just didn't show it openly because of Ethan. Now, it was clear to everyone that I had fallen out of favor. Grandma Sue wanted to talk to Ethan alone. I overheard their entire conversation. Ethan, Grandma knows you and Anan love each other, but you can't treat her like this. If you hurt her so much that she leaves you, it will be too late. Ethan said confidently, she won't leave me. I'll always be number one in her heart. Besides, I'm just having a little fun with that assistant. Grandma, don't worry about it. I twisted the corner of my shirt between my fingers and pressed my lips together, thinking, I put you first on the condition that you loved me too. I left the old estate aimlessly and returned to our house. I dug up the roses in the yard, cleared out all traces of myself, and mailed the signed divorce papers to the estate. Then, with my luggage, I took a hired car to a piece of land I had bought in the countryside and settled down. I started planning where to plant vegetables, where to fence off an area for chickens and ducks, and where to set up my own small work desk. I had a few crafting skills like knot tying. When I was bored, I would take a few private orders. Although one piece might take a day or two, I could still earn a few $100s. At least I wouldn't starve. Just as I was settling into this leisurely life, Ethan called me, his voice tinged with panic. Anan, where are you? Why are all your things gone from the house? Didn't you say you were redecorating? Are you divorcing me just because of Chloe? Didn't you say you'd never leave me? I said, devoid of emotion. Please sign the divorce papers. I'm tired. I don't want to play this game with you anymore. If you want novelty, I'll let you have it. Just leave me in peace. He refused without a second thought. Impossible. You are my wife. There's no divorce for me, only till death do us part. Fine. If we couldn't get divorced, it wouldn't stop me from living my own life. I hung up on him without a second thought, and continued sketching out my plans for the yard. By the third week, my body felt much stronger. The system told me I could start doing some light exercise daily. Once the yard was mostly cleaned up, I brought my mom over to live with me. I wasn't surprised when Ethan followed. He came in a wheelchair, looking gaunt and haggard. The system said Ethan's symptoms would start with his legs, then move to his arms, and finally his neck. Anan, how could you just run off here without a word? If you like this kind of rustic style, I can live here with you. I smiled, but there was no warmth in my eyes. But I don't like living with you. I think you're dirty. Ethan's eyes reddened. He shook his head and maneuvered his wheelchair in front of me, trying to take my hand, but I pulled away. Anan, don't be like this. Chloe was just a fling. I still love you. Anan, my legs are having some problems now. I can't let my uncle find out. So please come back with me for now. Just take care of me for a little while, okay? When I get better, however much money you want, I'll give it all to you. Ethan's uncle was eyeing the chairman position of the company, just waiting for the day Ethan would step down so he could take over. If Ethan saw a doctor now to check his legs, the news of his relapse would get out. For now, he was using the car accident as an excuse for being in a wheelchair, insisting he was just injured and not having a relapse, but everyone was watching his every move. I scoffed. You want me to wipe your ass for you again? I think that Chloe is more suitable for the job. Why don't you ask her? Speak of the devil. Chloe, in an off-white dress, ran over with a wronged expression on her face. She threw herself at Ethan's legs, sobbing. Ethan, you can't send me away. I want to be with you. Ethan pushed her away and turned to me to explain. Anan, I've broken off all contact with her now. I won't see her again. I fired her too. Anan, please come back with me, okay? I really need you. Chloe, unwilling to give up, begged Ethan again. Ethan, I can do anything Anan can do. Don't fire me. Let me stay by your side, please. I'll never make you do any of those extreme challenges again. At the mention of that, Ethan's face darkened. He must have been blaming his relapse on Chloe making him do all those reckless things. Realizing Ethan's expression had soured, Chloe crawled towards me on her knees, pleading, Anan, I beg you. I truly love Ethan. Please let me have him, okay? Please stop coming between us. Ethan yelled at Chloe, shut up. But since he could only move his upper body, he was powerless to do anything to Chloe from his wheelchair. I said to Chloe, I've already sent the divorce papers to Ethan. He's the one who won't sign them. Take him away, get him to sign, and don't bother me again. Hearing this, Chloe quickly got up and started pushing Ethan's wheelchair away. No matter how much Ethan protested, it was no use. Watching the two of them leave, my mom came out of the house. In time to eat. I smiled. Coming. Ethan eventually signed the divorce papers. When he called to harass me again, I threatened him. If you don't sign the divorce papers, I'll spread the news about your relapse. He finally signed. A month later, when it was time to finalize the divorce, Ethan didn't come. He was now completely paralyzed, only able to move his head. But he had a new assistant, someone Grandma Sue had apparently poached from another company for a high price, a very capable person. He told me, the old matriarch misses you very much and hopes you can visit her more often when you have time. She also asked me to pass on a message. Mr. Sue has wronged you and he owes you one. I held the divorce certificate, my lips pressed together, saying nothing. At this point, hearing anything about him stirred no emotion in me. I just felt a sense of relief holding the certificate. The new assistant also mentioned that Chloe had been kicked out by Mr. Sue, and he had even blacklisted her in the industry. Her life was not going well now. I knew Ethan had told him to say all this to me. I wasn't interested. I cut him off and turned to leave. All I had ever wanted was a simple life. But for Ethan, I had entered the world of the wealthy elite alone. To take care of him. Taking care of a completely paralyzed person is incredibly exhausting. You have to be by their side every moment. Whenever I took Ethan's things out to be washed, even the maids would complain that I smelled bad. Those wealthy kids would see me and throw stones at me, set their dogs on me. Because I ran into some of those young ladies, they found me dirty and forced me to kneel and apologize, making me swear that I would never walk on the main path again and always avoid them. Ethan knew all of this. He saw my body covered in wounds and said indignantly, "I will take control of the company. It was my father's business to begin with. Why should it be left to his brothers and sisters just because I'm sick? And then, you have to believe me. I will give you a good life in the future." His limbs were useless, so I became his hands and feet. I brought him company documents and helped him study finance and management. When Grandma Sue found out, she even hired a private tutor for him. He studied relentlessly, his eyes open from dawn till dusk. Even then, he was drafting plans with voice commands, achieving impressive results. He faced failures too, but I knew he would get better. Because the system was slowly healing his body. I encouraged him, patiently stayed by his side, and eventually, he was able to move and then walk again. After becoming a healthy man, he took control of the company with lightning speed and gave me a grand wedding. He was exceptionally good to me. He would cook for me himself, plant my favorite flowers, and give me expensive gifts every holiday. Later, as my body grew weaker, his attitude towards me slowly changed, and he even started attacking me with those hurtful words. I never understood how a person's heart could change so quickly. My mom and I lived in our own little world. She did her handicrafts, and I took on so many custom orders that I was booked through the next month. Even though I had enough money to last several lifetimes now, she wanted to keep busy. However, the peace didn't last a month. Grandma Sue came to find me, bringing Ethan with her. Although Ethan was now completely paralyzed, he sat in his wheelchair, using brainwaves and voice commands to work, forcefully keeping the company in his hands. But this was not a long-term solution. His bladder and sphincter muscles had lost their ability to contract. Urine and feces would leak out every second, and he had to wear an adult diaper at all times. To prevent the smell from spreading, he had to be changed and cleaned every 2 hours. Whenever Ethan saw a hint of disgust on his caregiver's face, he would fly into a rage. In just 1 month, he had gone through several sets of caregivers. When they left, they couldn't keep their mouths shut and started gossiping about Ethan's condition, which made his temper even worse. So he begged Grandma Sue to bring him to see me. The moment he saw me, he pleaded with a sincere expression, "Anan, my good Anan, it was all my fault for how I treated you before. I truly know I was wrong, completely wrong. I was just making a mistake that all men make. Anan, please give me another chance, okay? Anan, I want you back by my side to take care of me. I promise I will be devoted to you from now on. Let's remarry. Anan." Grandma Sue stood by, unable to say a word to help. At this point, my mom couldn't take it anymore. She came out and yelled at Ethan. "What do you think my daughter is? When you need her, you're all nice to her, making her whole world revolve around you. Once you have everything, you get tired of my daughter and push her away. Now that you realize only my daughter is good enough, you come back with this? Do you think we're that pathetic? That we'd want a cripple like you?" Ethan could only move his eyes. Tears streamed from his sockets. He said remorsefully, "Mom is right. I wronged Anan first. But after all this, I realized how important Anan is to me. I thought she would never leave me. I was just..." My mom cut him off. "Just what? Just making a mistake all men make? Let me tell you, Ethan, stop pestering my daughter, or don't blame me for getting physical. And don't call me Mom. Hearing that name from your mouth makes me sick." Grandma Sue sighed heavily and said to Ethan, "Ethan, let's go home. You're useless now. I think it's better to let your uncle manage the company. You just focus on getting better. As long as your grandmother is here, you won't be bullied, okay?" Ethan shouted, "No, Grandma, don't. Let me say a few more words to Anan. Anan, I've wet myself again. I'm so uncomfortable. Can you come and help me? Didn't you say you couldn't bear to see me suffer like this?" Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. I scooped up water from the nearby cistern and threw it on him, saying without a trace of emotion, "You're disgusting. Stop sickening me here. If you need to be cleaned up, go home and do it." Then I turned to Grandma Sue. "Grandma, I know you've always taken good care of me, and I see you as my own grandmother. But I want to use that favor you said you owed me. Please don't let Ethan come looking for me ever again. I want to live in peace." Grandma Sue sighed again and again, agreeing to my request before having someone will Ethan away. Ethan's story. I never thought my muscular disease would relapse, and that I would lose Anan, the woman I loved most, at the same time. Only after she left did I realize how important she was to me. I regret pushing my body to its limits when I was healthy, and now I'm back in that hateful state. After Grandma brought me home, she hired caregivers for me. But I hated the way they looked at me, with mockery and schadenfreude in their eyes. They would deliberately use scalding water to clean me, secretly take pictures of my body to gossip with others, and there was even a 50-something-year-old, shameless old caregiver, who climbed into my bed one night. Her disgusting body writhed on top of me, but besides being able to move my eyes, I didn't even have the strength to speak. I couldn't tell Grandma. Every time my assistant came to check on me, that old caregiver would say I was doing fine. I tried to send signals to my assistant, but she didn't seem to notice anything. That old caregiver deliberately tormented me by telling me about Anan's recent life. I looked at the updates she posted. She had planted the yard full of roses and hydrangeas, and had lots of little dogs. The smile on her face was one of pure joy, a happiness I had rarely seen. Until one day, I saw another man's name appear in her posts. My heart went wild with jealousy. I was jealous that man could get close to my Anan. Seeing me like this only made the caregiver more excited. She was a pervert. She even hired paparazzi to secretly take pictures of Anan. She and that man were holding hands, strolling down the street. On Valentine's Day, he kissed her and she put on the wedding ring he gave her. She looked so happy. A sourness welled up in my eyes. Why, when she was with me, taking care of me, she used to smile that happily too. Later, her expression became nothing but cold. I had lost her. I begged the old caregiver to stop showing me, but she was determined to torture me. I wanted to die but couldn't. I was tormented every day. A few years later, Grandma passed away. My uncle took full control of the company, and I was thrown out of the old estate where I grew up. The old caregiver, now without a source of income, abandoned me and disappeared. Just as I was about to starve to death, a family of 3 walked past me. A little girl ran over with a piece of bread, calling out, "Mommy, this homeless man looks so pitiful. Is he hungry?" The girl offered the bread to my mouth, but I couldn't chew it. I lifted my eyes, wanting to see this kind little girl, and Anan's face came into view. I grew excited. The girl was frightened by me. Anan ran over and hugged her. "Lily, don't be scared. Daddy and Mommy are here." I watched Anan, my Anan. The man protected his wife and daughter as they walked away, and my heart lost its ability to beat. Part 2. A bootleg version of Black Myth. Wukong was making the rounds among my classmates, featuring a location called the Kingdom of Mahayana. Everyone who played it became obsessed with visiting the place in real life, but none of them ever came back. I received a copy of that bootleg game too, but what they didn't know was that I'm the last of the geomancers. Black Myth. Wukong was the hottest game out right now, and I really wanted to play it, but it was too expensive. My friend Lucy gave me a flash drive and said it had the game on it. Ecstatic, I plugged the drive into my computer. After the installation finished, 3 large words slowly appeared on the screen. Black Porky. In the center of the screen was a black boar in armor, holding a 9-toothed rake. I threw my mouse down in disgust. What the hell is this? This bootleg is ridiculous. Lucy tried to console me, saying that even though the pig looked rough, the game's graphics were amazing, and the story was way better than Wukong's. Seeing I was still unmoved, she slammed her hand on the table. "I gave it to you. It's free. You're not gonna play it." The word free had a magical hold over my mind. I couldn't help but reach for the mouse. 3 hours later, the screen froze on the exterior of a temple. The temple was nestled between mountains on 3 sides, with a sheer cliff behind it. Layers of pavilions were stacked upon one another, creating a magnificent view. A plaque hung on the tallest pagoda, bearing 4 words, Kingdom of Mahayana. The vermilion gate, adorned with golden beast faces, slowly swung open. The black porky I was controlling stood at the entrance. As the camera pulled back, his massive body looked like an ant before the colossal wooden doors. For some reason, in that instant, my heart clenched uncontrollably. I felt so small, as if my life had no meaning. Only behind that gate could I find the truth I was searching for. Bright red text slowly pulsed on the screen. All that has form is illusory. To be free from all forms is to be a Buddha. Welcome to the Kingdom of Mahayana. I found myself reciting the words. As I finished, an intense, uncontrollable urge washed over me. I had to go to this kingdom of Mahayana. I had to seek the truth. I immediately realized something was wrong. There was a curse hidden in the game files. Curses originated from witchcraft. In Taoism and Buddhism, curses could be used to communicate with deities and Buddhas, to pray to gods, and also to command ghosts and control people's minds. Someone under a curse had to do what the caster demanded. Otherwise, the thought would take root in their mind, making them anxious and unable to think about anything else. This kind of curse worked on ordinary people, but it shouldn't have affected me much, because I am the last of the geomancers. As the saying goes, a first-rate master observes the stars, a second-rate master seeks the water's flow, and third-rate masters are a dime a dozen. Most of the practitioners today are just ordinary feng shui masters. Those who could master the art of observing stars and qi were employed in the imperial court, serving the emperor. My family, the Qiaos, were the official imperial astronomers for generations, and also the heads of the Fengmen sect. Years of practicing Taoist arts had made my mind much stronger than a normal person's. But after playing that game, the final image was seared into my brain. My heart pounded, and I felt a restless anxiety. I downed 2 glasses of water, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. I turned to Lucy and remarked, "This curse has some serious power." When I looked up and saw Lucy's face, I jumped. She was staring blankly at the screen, her eyes vacant and red-rimmed, with tears welling up. I was shocked. Lucy might be a bit of an idiot, but she was the lead disciple of the Maoshan sect. She'd been training in the mountains since she was a child. She shouldn't have been so easily controlled by a curse. I shook her shoulder. "What's wrong with you?" The shake brought Lucy back to her senses. She suddenly jumped up, ecstatic. "I'm rich. I'm rich." She held her phone up for me to see. "Look. Holy crap, the whole market is limit up. It's a bull market, a once-in-a-century bull market." I leaned in for a closer look and my eyes went wide. Days PL. Over 2 million. I asked Lucy what that meant. She said the stocks she bought right before the national holiday had hit their daily limit up today. The day's PL meant she had made over $2 million today. I gasped. "You just put your money in there and did nothing, and it gave you 2 million? Is there really something that good in the world?" Lucy snorted proudly. "What do you know? The dollar is weakening, it's great news for us. The Chinese stock market is about to take off. This is a once-in-a-century opportunity, a super-duper bull market. You get in, and you can make money just by lying there." Lucy went on, analyzing the international situation, calling herself the Maoshan She-Wolf of Wall Street. She said that since we were friends, she'd recommend a few stocks to me. All I had to do was buy in and win. Looking at the row of bright red numbers on her phone screen, I was incredibly tempted. I had a brokerage account too. Sophie's cousin worked at a securities firm, and last year, to boost her sales, she had us all open accounts. At the time, they were giving away a box of tissues to everyone who opened an account. It wasn't about the tissues, really, it was more of a favor for a classmate, so I went. I quickly pulled out my phone, transferred all my savings, a total of $13,843, into my brokerage account, and then, following Lucy's instructions, bought into a stock that was about to hit its limit up. The moment I bought it, I blinked. Days PL, $6,788. My heart sank. "Lucy, are the fees for this stock that high?" "It took 5%. "What 5%? Lucy looked at the screen, confused, and then shot up from her seat. "Holy crap, why is the market tanking?" "Tanking? What did that mean?" Under my murderous glare, Lucy snatched the phone from my hand and confidently flicked her hair. "It's nothing. They're just backing up the bus to pick up more passengers, you know? It's a shakeout. They're deliberately crashing the stock to give you a chance to get on board. You're such a noob, you wouldn't get it even if I explained. Relax, it'll pull back up in a minute." 10 minutes later, the line did indeed go back up, and my day's profit and loss showed plus $216. I was instantly delighted. Wow, I made over $200 for doing nothing. At that rate, it would be over $6,000 a month. I was going to be rich. "Here, Lucy, have a seat. Let me peel an orange for you." I eagerly sat Lucy back down in her chair. While she ate her orange, she told me about the game. The game was first played by her good friend Sophie's cousin Tim. After playing it, Tim was extremely excited. He posted the game link in their friends' group chat, praising it to the high heavens, and said that the kingdom of Mahayana was a sacred place for a pilgrimage. He invited his friends to go with him. The group was full of rich, idle trust fund kids. With nothing better to do, they all downloaded the game. Then 3 days ago they all disappeared. Disappeared. I tapped the screen. This scene looks a lot like Black Myth, Wukong. The setting is probably the Shaoxitian Temple in Shaanxi. That place is a super popular tourist spot, with huge lines every day. How could someone disappear there? Lucy nodded. That's what's so strange about it. She said that after the rich kids disappeared, their families got worried and called the police. The police found that they had indeed bought tickets to Shaoxitian. But after reviewing all the surveillance footage from that day, they never appeared at the site. The last time any of them were seen on camera was 3 nights ago, at the foot of Phoenix Mountain, where Shaoxitian is located. Their car was still parked on the side of the road. Phoenix Mountain isn't large. It's a long, narrow ridge that juts out, shaped like a phoenix spreading its wings. Shaoxitian is the only attraction on the mountain. Over the past few days, hundreds of search and rescue teams have combed the mountain, but they haven't found a trace of them. Lucy showed me a photo. It was a group picture taken before they went into the mountains. Everyone was wearing the same black jacket. There were over 20 of them, men and women, all with stern, serious faces. At the edge of the photo was a blurry figure of a bystander. The person was wearing a black baseball cap, with one hand covering half their face, revealing only a sliver of a fair chin. On the back of their hand was an intricate black tattoo that snaked up from their pinky finger and disappeared into their sleeve. My pupils contracted. That was Kane. If Kane was also on Phoenix Mountain, then their disappearance was very likely related to him. There was no time to waste. I immediately called Willow and told her to get ready to go to Shaanxi with us. With the safety of so many rich kids on the line, Lucy moved fast. She had Sophie arrange a private jet to fly us there. At the airport, I happily showed my phone to Willow. Willow, let me tell you, a once-in-a-century bull market is coming. See my stock? Come on, tell me loud and clear. How much did I make today? I shoved the phone in Willow's face. She glanced at it, her expression turning sympathetic. 24,500. My smile stretched from ear to ear. Stop it. Lucy, didn't you say a stock can only go up 10% in a day? It was already up over 8% when I bought in. How could I have made so much? Willow shook her head and turned the screen back to me. You're down 24,500. Your stock hit its limit down. What? Everything went black. I was going to kill Lucy. But why was she still alive? Because I couldn't quite beat her in a fight. It was a draw, at best. But she was on the verge of a breakdown herself. On the plane, she sat with her hands clasped, muttering to herself, "It's a technical correction, don't be afraid. It's a technical correction." Then she lunged at Sophie, grabbing her by the neck. "You rich bitch. Aren't you a capitalist? You guys control the stock prices. Make it go back up." Sophie struggled. "Let go. I'm down over 10 million myself." The chaos continued until we landed. It was 7 in the evening, and the mood was grim. I was so upset I lost my appetite. I only ate 3 bowls of rice for dinner. The car drove to the foot of Phoenix Mountain. In front of us was the luxury minibus Tim and his friends had last been in. The doors were shut tight, and the black vehicle was shrouded in the mountain's shadow, almost blending in with the night. I walked to the window and stood on my tiptoes to look inside. It was dark inside the bus. I could vaguely see that all the seats were empty, with a few bags scattered around. I turned on my flashlight and pressed my face against the glass. The next second, a pale face suddenly appeared in a seat, pressed right up against the glass next to me. I froze, but Sophie next to me let out a startled gasp and instinctively leaned back, nearly falling over. I reached out and steadied her. She stared, wide-eyed and in disbelief. "Bro." I scratched my head. "What are you talking about? Just call me Jade." Sophie pushed me away. "That was my brother. My brother is on the bus." Sophie rushed forward, banging on the window. "Tim, you've been on the bus for days. Why didn't you call home?" The face on the window remained pressed tightly against the glass. Its complexion was an unnatural, deathly pale, even its lips were white. The expression was stiff, and the eyes barely moved, like a pure white plaster mask. Lucy ran to the door and pulled the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The bus was locked from the inside. Lucy grabbed a rock from the side of the road and smashed the window. The four of us climbed in one by one. The moment I jumped into the bus, I felt something was wrong. The floor was sticky, like stepping into wet cement. Each step required a great deal of effort to pull my shoe free. I shone my flashlight on the floor and gasped. The floor of the bus was covered in a thick layer of reddish-brown goo that looked like blood. I crouched down, dipped my finger in the goo, and brought it to my nose. It was fishy and foul, with a strong woody smell. It didn't seem like blood, but more like the sap of some plant. I asked Willow if she knew what it was. She studied it for a moment, then frowned and shook her head. The smell is familiar, but I can't place it right now. We both stared at the goo on my finger. Willow brought my finger closer to her, tentatively wanting to lick it. It was a habit of hers. As the maiden of the goo sect, with a golden cicada goo in her body, she was immune to all poisons. She had eaten all sorts of disgusting insects since she was a child, so the girl wasn't squeamish, wasn't afraid of death, and had a natural instinct to taste anything she didn't understand. But before Willow could get close, a head suddenly popped out from the side and bit my entire finger. I yelped. "Ah, Lucy, what are you doing?" Lucy, after sucking on my finger, looked up smugly. "What good stuff are you two eating without me? You got chocolate." She smacked her lips, savoring the taste. The strong woody smell, stimulated by saliva, suddenly transformed. It was as if the wood had rapidly withered and rotted, along with the snakes and insects beneath it, their bodies putrefying and emitting the overwhelming stench of dead rats. "Lucy, Bleck!" Willow exclaimed, "Ah!" and turned to look at Lucy with a complex expression, a mix of pity, disgust, and even a hint of envy. "I know what this is now." Willow explained that among the 30,000 types of goo in the Meow region, there's a special class of goo worms that are not quite worms, existing somewhere between plant and animal. Like the caterpillar fungus, their state changes with the seasons. There is a particular plant called abyss worm grass. It remains in a plant state for most of the year, but in late autumn, its leaves emit a special fragrance that attracts snakes and insects. After the snakes and insects eat its leaves, they become hosts for it. Their bodies begin to rot from the inside out, constantly oozing a sticky substance. Once their muscles, bones, and internal organs are completely consumed by the plant, the skin on their heads will also rupture, and a few leaves will sprout, turning them into a complete worm grass. This worm grass has an animal's body, can move freely, and preys on raw flesh. Even if it's chopped into several pieces, because of its plant nature, as long as there is soil, each piece can grow. They are very difficult to deal with. Willow looked at Lucy with admiration. Its mucus is formed from the melted flesh and blood of a rotting animal carcass. It smells horrific. I tried to taste it a few times when I was a kid but never had the courage. You're really something. Lucy. Bleck URP, why didn't you say so earlier, Bleck? Lucy crouched on the ground, dry heaving. Sophie walked over from a distance. What are you guys doing? Lucy, what's wrong? Lucy quickly swallowed the bile in her mouth, wiped her lips, and swiftly scooped up a glob of the mucus from the floor. She stood up and held her finger in front of Sophie. Sophie, this is imported chocolate Jade brought. It's delicious, want to try? Chocolate. Sophie's suspicious gaze swept over us. Why is it melted? Lucy shrugged. Jade's just a hothead, runs hot. Held it in her hand too long and it melted. It's better melted, I'm not kidding. You have to try it. Sophie turned her head, avoiding Lucy's finger. I don't believe you. You're not trying to trick me, are you? Not unless you eat it first. Lucy hesitated for a moment, then her expression firmed. She frowned, stuck out her tongue, and quickly licked her finger again. Lucy's whole face contorted, but she forced a smile, looking as if she were savoring something delicious. Divine. It really is good. See, I wasn't lying. Sophie's cheeks puffed out like a pufferfish. Ha 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 ha. I heard everything you said before. Ha 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 ha, Lucy, you're so gross. Lucy. Bleck, damn it, Bleck. Lucy's trick backfired spectacularly. She was crouched on the ground, looking like she was about to vomit up her own organs. The three of us were howling with laughter. As we laughed, the whole bus suddenly lurched. My expression froze. Willow moved swiftly, grabbing the top of the window frame with one hand, ducking her head, and nimbly slipping out onto the ground. One of the tires is flat. Sophie frowned. Something's not right here. Let's get out. I turned to look at the seats in the back. Where's your brother? Sophie shook her head. It wasn't him. Someone taped a photo of him to the window. I walked over to take a look. It was indeed a photo, covering the entire window. The face was almost life-sized, so from the outside in the dark, it was easy to mistake it for a real person. I tore off the photo, rolled it up, and tossed it in my bag, planning to find a safe place to examine it for clues later. The three of us got off the bus. Willow had already circled the bus and told us she had found more of the worm grass's mucus at the foot of the mountain. Not only that, but the nearby bushes had broken branches. There must have been other people on the bus. After being attacked by the worm grass, they abandoned the vehicle and fled up the mountain in this direction. We followed Willow's lead into the mountains. Along the way, Lucy was preoccupied, her hands pressed to her stomach, repeatedly asking Willow if she had been parasitized by the worm grass too. Willow nodded and gave her a detox pill. The growing conditions for worm grass are very specific. It's called abyss worm grass because it must grow at the bottom of a cliff or a ravine, in a dark place with no sunlight. And there has to be an underground water source and at least 3 different types of poisonous insects nearby. You know, poisonous insects are very territorial. The worm grass can only grow at the intersection of their territories. This thing needs very harsh, very coincidental conditions to grow. Your brother and his friends were just unlucky. How did they run into it? According to Willow, once the worm grass successfully parasitizes a host, it becomes a mobile animal, no longer confined to the bottom of cliffs. It will roam around and is highly aggressive. Tim and his friends came to Phoenix Mountain for a trip, and they arrived at the foot of the mountain late at night. They probably encountered the worm grass as soon as they parked their car. So the group fled in a panic up the mountain. I thought that was unlikely. When normal people are attacked by an animal, why would they run up a mountain? That would just put them at a bigger disadvantage. And there were over 20 of them. Someone should have been able to escape, or at least make a distress call. But in the past few days, no one had contacted the outside world. But for now, I had no other ideas besides Willow's theory, so we could only follow her and look for them on the mountain. Willow followed the tracks of the worm grass. As we walked through the mountain forest late at night, I felt that the atmosphere was particularly strange. The forest was too quiet. The usual sounds of insects and birds were completely absent. There wasn't even a whisper of wind. Everything around us was hidden in the shadows, still and unmoving. The only sound was my own footsteps, crunching on the dry leaves. Crunch, 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 crunch. The sound grew louder, more frequent. I didn't think I was walking that fast. I stopped abruptly. Crunch, crunch. I heard it clearly. The sound was coming from the bushes next to me. I reached into my bag, pulled out my peachwood sword, and with a thunder talisman in my other hand, I charged towards the sound, yelling, "Willow, get over here. There's something here." The bushes shook violently. I raised my sword, about to strike. Suddenly, a scream came from inside. "Whoa, who the hell are you?" My flashlight cast a halo of light in front of me, illuminating the entire bush. A man was crouching in the thicket, shielding his eyes with his hands, muttering for me to move the flashlight away. What kind of flashlight is that? It's so bright. Sophie and the others heard the noise and gathered around, surrounding the bush. When she saw the man clearly, Sophie gasped. "Tim." The man was startled. He cupped his hands around his eyes and squinted at Sophie for a moment, then said in shock, "Whoa, Sophie." The siblings' reunion was emotional at first. They held hands and spun in a circle. Then Sophie started yelling at him, saying the family was in an uproar, that his mom had nearly had a heart attack and was still in the hospital. Since he was fine, why didn't he send a message home? Tim looked completely bewildered and pulled out his dead phone. "Didn't I tell everyone before I left? I was going to be on a silent retreat here for a week. Why would you need to contact me? My phone died a long time ago, and there's nowhere to charge it here." Sophie was about to lose her mind. "There were over 20 of you. Did all of your phones die? The rest of them? Doesn't a single one of you have a brain? Didn't anyone think to let their family know they were safe?" Tim explained that their pilgrimage was a retreat. Everyone had agreed not to use their phones, to temporarily disconnect from the fast-paced world and cultivate their inner peace. So no one brought a portable charger. They all turned off their phones as soon as they got out of the car. A few who couldn't resist turning their phones back on at night found there was no signal in the deep mountains anyway, so they gave up. You're saying none of you are in trouble? You got out of the car on your own? Then where have you been hiding all these days? Why couldn't the police find you? Tim looked even more confused. What are you talking about? We've been at the Kingdom of Mahayana. The police came looking for us? Sophie, look at the mess you've made. You haven't contacted me in ages, and then you suddenly think of me and call the cops? What's wrong with you? Tim gave Sophie a piece of his mind. Sophie was angry too and argued back. As they were arguing, Tim suddenly froze. Then he clutched his stomach dramatically and burst out laughing. Oh my God, what is this? You're telling me these girls you brought are some kind of masters? A maiden of the Goose sect? Ha ha ha, that's hilarious. Sophie, have you been reading too many fantasy novels? Did they rot your brain? You're over 20 years old. Can you stop being so cringy? Tim just kept shaking his head, looking at Sophie as if she were an idiot. All right, I appreciate the thought. It's the middle of the night, and it's not safe in the mountains. You girls shouldn't be making trouble here. Go home. Tim waved his hand, shooing us away like flies. I was completely confused. According to Tim, no one was in trouble. After getting out of the car, the group had proceeded up the mountain as planned and entered the Shaoxitian scenic area. Inside, there was a place called the Kingdom of Mahayana, which was their destination. For the past few days, everyone had been staying at the Kingdom of Mahayana. The temple had people to host them, with morning prayers, dharma talks, and 3 free meals a day. I asked him, they provide room and board, so what were you crunching on just now? Tim scratched his head, looking embarrassed. Well, you can only eat vegetarian food at the temple. I got so hungry I couldn't stand it, so I snuck out to eat some snacks. He threw the XX chicken feet wrapper on the ground. All right, I'm going back to sleep. You guys should get going. It's not right for a bunch of girls to be out this late. Phoenix Mountain wasn't big, and the police had been searching for days without finding them. But Tim insisted he was right there at the scenic spot. The whole thing was incredibly strange. Of course, we couldn't just leave. After a lot of persuasion, Tim reluctantly agreed to take us to the Kingdom of Mahayana to have a look. Just so we're clear, I can only let you stay for one night. You have to leave tomorrow. Tim led the way, but not towards the summit. Instead, he went downhill, squeezing through all sorts of unexpected nooks and crannies. Sometimes it seemed like there was no path, but Tim would circle around a tree, then crawl under some bushes, and after a few twists and turns, a small path would appear. I was amazed. In the deep, dark mountain forest, he didn't even have a light, yet his sense of direction was ridiculously good. We walked for about an hour. All I could see were blurs of branches brushing past my face. I was dizzy and had completely lost my bearings. But then Tim suddenly stopped and pointed ahead. We're here. We were now in a gorge, surrounded by tall, bare rock faces. Shining a flashlight around, I could see the soil was a mix of yellow and purple, somewhat resembling the Danxiao landforms in Zhangye. Tim told us this was the local multicolored loess of Shi County. The bottom of the gorge, however, was covered in green vegetation, mostly low-lying shrubs and ferns, with a few scattered trees that weren't very tall. I couldn't remember exactly where we had passed through to get from the dense forest to this gorge. I took out my phone to check my location, but when I turned it on, I realized Tim was right. There was no signal at all. Tim stretched lazily. Once we get to the Kingdom of Mahayana, you have to be careful and follow the temple rules. I looked around. Where is the Kingdom of Mahayana? I don't see a temple. Tim shook his head and smiled smugly. As they say, a leaf before the eye blocks out Mount Tai. That's you. You need to walk a little further. I did as he said and took a few more steps forward, nearly losing my footing. Fortunately, I reacted quickly, stopping just in time and leaning back to regain my balance. A huge, circular pit had suddenly appeared in front of me. The bottom of the pit was lush and green, filled with dense trees. In the very center of the pit was a magnificent temple. The temple was surrounded by mountains, with pavilions stacked behind it, and a tall pagoda rising high, looking exactly like the scene from the Black Porky game. Tim laughed heartily. There are stairs ahead. Be careful. The 4 of us followed him down the steps and arrived at the Vermilion Gate. The gate was open, but the temple was pitch black, without a single light on. Tim was acting all sneaky, whispering for us to go in, and reminding us to be as quiet as possible, so we wouldn't wake the monks. Lucy was the first to follow him. Just as she was about to step inside, I grabbed her and motioned for her to look at Tim's head. We all stared at Tim. The light from our 4 flashlights converged on him like a spotlight, so bright that he instinctively shut his eyes. Tim spoke with his eyes closed, his face scrunched up. "Hey, can you guys turn off the lights?" As he spoke, a green leaf on his head trembled along with his movements. Lucy's eyes widened. "Is he a leaf?" I nodded, my expression grave. I had already started backing away slowly, hiding behind Willow. According to what Willow said, the person in front of us was likely not Tim anymore, but a puppet controlled by the worm grass. The next second, Tim suddenly reached for Lucy. Lucy was prepared. She dropped into a low horse stance, her upper body leaning back to dodge Tim's attack. When Tim pulled his hand back, she sprang up and landed a hard punch on his head. Tim yelped in pain and was sent flying by the punch. The blade of grass on his head went flying too. Willow was shocked. "Why did you hit him?" I pointed at the grass, then at his head. "Isn't he?" "Willow." "Of course not. I can sense the worm grass. What were you thinking?" Tim scrambled up, crying, his face full of accusation. "Why did you hit me out of nowhere?" Lucy, thinking fast, put on a stern face. "Humph, I am a great disciple of the Maoshan sect, and my friend is the heir of the Geomancers. You didn't believe us, so I had to teach you a lesson." "Tim, are you insane?" "Sophie, what kind of weirdo friends do you have? You're all nuts. Get out of here, I'm not taking you in." In his anger, Tim didn't lower his voice. Our commotion quickly attracted others. 2 young monks appeared. They were round-faced and big-eared, wearing very distinctive robes with low-hanging collars and wide sashes tied at the chest, much like the Buddha statues in the Yungang grottos. The moment Tim saw them, he was like a mouse seeing a cat. He stood at attention, his expression extremely respectful. "Master Fuyu and I." The older monk raised his hand, smiling. "No need to explain. I know everything. Your sister and her friends wish to stay here for one night, correct? Please follow me." Tim's eyes widened. "How did you know she's my sister?" The master chuckled. "The Buddha says it cannot be spoken." Tim nodded obediently and turned to leave. The master gestured for us to follow him. We went around the main hall, where there were rows of meditation cells on either side. He led us to the cells on the right, pushed open the door to the innermost room, and told us we could rest there for the night. The room wasn't large. On the left was a long, communal bed, like the heated brick beds in the north. On the right was a square table with a few chairs. Lucy stretched, kicked off her shoes, climbed onto the bed, and flopped down like a starfish. "Those 2 monks are something else, huh?" They could tell our relationship at a glance. I sat down next to her. Duh. Sophie and her brother look a lot alike. Who wouldn't be able to tell? Lucy, no way. Her brother isn't good looking at all. Our Sophie is way prettier. How do they look alike? And you call yourself a Maoshan Taoist, a face reader? The shape of their eyes, the curve at the corners, it's exactly the same. You didn't notice? Loose bullshit. You're making that up. After arguing for a bit, I pulled out Tim's photo from my bag to prove my point. See? You still say they don't look alike. Sophie and Willow leaned in to look. Sophie made a fair judgment. We do look alike, especially the mole right here between our eyebrows. My brother's is more obvious. Sophie pointed at the photo, but after a couple of seconds, her face suddenly changed. My heart pounded in my chest. The Tim we had just met didn't have a mole between his eyebrows. We looked at each other, our expressions grim. A person's mole couldn't just disappear. There was definitely something wrong with the Tim we had seen. But I have the natural ability to see spirits, and Lucy's senses are extraordinary. We had been in close contact with Tim for so long, yet we hadn't detected any evil energy from him. Who was he? I suggested to Lucy that we split up and investigate the temple. To be safe, Willow left tracking goo worms on both Lucy and Sophie. Willow and I left the room and headed straight for the west wing of cells. The light was still on in one of the rooms. The room's window faced the corridor. It was a traditional wooden lattice window covered with light yellow paper, and it was cracked open just a sliver. I gestured to Willow, and we both crouched down, slowly creeping under the window to peek through the crack. The moment I looked up, I jumped. I was staring right into a pair of eyes. They were long, narrow phoenix eyes with corners that tilted up slightly. The pupils were dark and bright. Below the brow, there was a very noticeable black mole. I froze. The person on the other side clearly hadn't expected anyone to be outside the window either. They immediately put a finger to their lips in a hushing gesture. Someone in the room called out to him. "Tim, what are you dawdling for? Get to bed. We have to wake up early tomorrow." "Coming." Tim turned his head to answer, then winked at me before turning back and climbing into bed. There were no lights on in the room, and there was no moon tonight. The temple was pitch black inside and out. It was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Normally, I shouldn't have been able to see anything. But for some reason, the scene inside the room was crystal clear in my mind. It was as if I wasn't seeing it with my eyes, but it was being projected directly into my brain. I saw the long, communal bed on one side of the room was full of people. A quick count showed at least a dozen, all men. The temple must have separate quarters for men and women. Tim's spot was on the very edge, right next to the window. After lying down, he turned over to face the window, his eyes still fixed on me. The people in the room were chatting intermittently, mostly about the morning lesson or discussing the Buddhist teachings from that day. It all sounded very mystical and legitimate. About 10 minutes later, the room fell completely silent. I was still crouched outside the window, my legs going numb. Just as I was about to lose my patience, a bizarre scene unfolded. One of the men suddenly sat up. The beds were against the wall, and everyone slept with their heads towards it. This man sat up, turned around, and started crawling towards the wall. When he reached the corner, he didn't stop. He placed his hands on the wall and continued to climb upwards, his palms like suction cups, until he was hanging upside down from the ceiling. The man had shoulder-length hair, which due to gravity, hung down and covered his face. Combined with his strange movements, he looked terrifying. Once on the ceiling, he moved with incredible speed, scurrying towards the window. I immediately reached for the lightning-struck wood token in my pocket. Tim stared at me in terror, his mouth opening and closing as if to say, "Help me." I was hesitating whether to break the window and go in to save him when he closed his eyes. The man clung to the ceiling with his legs, his body hanging upside down. His face was almost touching Tim's nose. He stared at him for a few seconds. The man let out a strange laugh, then twisted his waist, his upper body snapping back. He pushed off the ceiling with his hands, crawled back to his spot, and pulled the covers over himself. A moment later, the man's even breathing could be heard. Tim opened his eyes and let out a long sigh of relief. Tim cautiously lifted the covers and sat up. He sat there for about half a minute, but the room remained quiet. Everyone else was sound asleep. Only then did Tim tiptoe off the bed, slowly move to the window and push it open. Seeing me and Willow crouched outside, Tim pointed at Willow, surprised. "There are two of you." Just as I was about to speak, the sound of a quilt rustling against clothes came from inside the room. I turned my head and saw that the man who had been sleeping was now on all fours, climbing the wall to the ceiling again. I urgently pulled Tim over. "Quick, get out. The wall crawler is awake again." Tim's face visibly drained of color. He trembled, one hand braced against the wall, the other trying to pull himself out. But due to his extreme nervousness and fear, his legs were weak. He tried a few times, but his body remained frozen in place. The wall-crawling man was almost right above Tim. I stood up, grabbed him under the arms, and with a powerful heave, lifted him out. The next second, the wall crawler reached the window. His body was still on the ceiling, but his head hung down upside down, looking at me from over the top of the window frame. This time, I finally got a clear look at his face. He had no face. Or rather, he had no features. His entire face was like a mass of melted wax or sticky mud. As he moved, black liquid dripped down, landing on the windowsill. Tim screamed in terror. It was like a drop of cold water hitting a hot skillet. Tim's scream sent the entire room into a frenzy. Everyone threw off their covers and, in unison, began crawling up the walls to the ceiling, swarming towards the window. Tim frantically grabbed my arm. "Run." He pulled me towards the back of the temple, with Willow following close behind. As we ran, I glanced back. The people were crawling on all fours like animals. Some had climbed onto the roof and were jumping down, their arms spread wide as if gliding, using the wind to gain incredible speed. Tim was scared out of his mind. "Run. If they catch us, we're done for." We ran north until a pagoda came into view. It was a traditional octagonal pagoda, with layers of relief carvings between the eaves of each level. In the thick darkness, I couldn't make out what was carved. As I ran, I casually glanced at it and noticed that the pagoda only had 6 stories. Traditional pagodas always have an odd number of stories, because odd numbers are yang and even numbers are yin. Buddhism is about light and positivity, so yang numbers are chosen. Pagodas can have as few as 5 stories, or as many as 9 or 13. But the most common is 7. A 7-story pagoda represents the 7 emotions and 6 desires of the secular world: joy, anger, sorrow, worry, grief, fear, and shock. The saying saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda refers to this. I just didn't know why this one was missing a story. There was no time to think. The people behind us were getting closer. The 3 of us rushed through the pagoda's main door and worked together to slam it shut. The moment we entered, a bone-chillingly cold air hit us. I couldn't help but shiver and move closer to Willow. The people outside were banging on the door frantically, but the wooden door was sturdy, and the 3 of us were pressing against it with all our might. After a while of banging, they couldn't break through. Slowly, the noise outside faded, and everything became quiet. Tim collapsed to the floor, panting heavily. I asked him what those things were. "Tim, why were they chasing you?" Tim looked up, shocked. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" I was confused. "What's with you? Did you get amnesia?" Tim looked even more bewildered than we did. He said he had been trapped here for a week and had never seen us before. "Did you guys also play the Black Porky game and get tricked into coming here? There's something wrong with this place. We have to find a way to escape." Tim said that on his first day here, he was actually excited. He attended Buddhist classes with his friends, toured the temple, and was curious about everything. But when night fell, he felt something was off. He had trouble sleeping in new places. Even though he had climbed the mountain all day and was physically exhausted, he couldn't fall asleep. So he lay on his side, staring out the window. Unexpectedly, his companion next to him moved. Tim thought he was also awake and was about to turn over and chat with him. His entire face started to melt. Tim's expression was one of pure terror. He said he was so scared he couldn't move and could only watch as his companion climbed the wall. Fortunately, after climbing the wall, the companion just scurried around the ceiling like a headless fly and didn't do anything to him. Tim didn't dare to sleep, nor did he dare to be awake. He lay there, stiff as a board, with his eyes closed until morning. When he woke up, his companion was acting completely normal, laughing and joking with the others. Tim couldn't stay there any longer. He immediately packed his things and told the temple's abbot he wanted to go home. The abbot refused, criticizing him for having a restless mind and no capacity for enlightenment. He said that was all the more reason for him to stay and cultivate himself. His companions also tried to persuade him, saying he was the one who had organized the trip, so how could he give up so easily? Tim was too embarrassed to refuse, so he endured another day. That night, there was one more person crawling on the ceiling. Tim was terrified. The next morning, he insisted on leaving, no matter what. This time the abbot agreed. But after Tim packed his luggage and went back to his room, for some reason, he fell asleep on the bed. When he woke up, it was the next morning. This happened repeatedly for several days. He knew there was something wrong with the temple. So tonight he was determined not to sleep, no matter how tired he was. And then he met us. Tim spoke earnestly, not at all like he was lying. When I told him what had happened over the past few days, his already pale face turned even whiter. "What do you mean? You were brought in by me." "That's impossible. I've never seen you before." "That wasn't me." I was completely lost. It was just as we had guessed, that Tim was a fake. But he wasn't a wormgrass and he didn't have any evil energy. What could he be? Whatever. We'd figure it out after we found Lucy and the others. I asked Willow where Lucy and Sophie were. Willow took a goo worm from her hair and placed it in her palm. She watched it crawl around and then looked up, surprised. "They're here too." "What?" "In the pagoda." I looked around. The pagoda was hollow inside, octagonal in shape. The surrounding walls were covered with colorful Buddhist murals, and each level had several niches with exquisite Buddha statues. There was a very narrow staircase in the corner, only wide enough for one person to ascend. The first floor was empty except for the 3 of us. So Lucy and the others must be upstairs. We checked the first floor and found nothing special. I told Willow I was going upstairs to have a look. Tim refused to go up with us under any circumstances. I didn't feel comfortable leaving him alone, so I had Willow watch him while I went up the stairs by myself. The pagoda had 6 stories, each about 4 meters high. I silently calculated in my head that after a few dozen steps, I should have reached the 2nd floor. But there was no entrance to the 2nd floor on this staircase. There were tall walls on both sides, with a narrow wooden staircase sandwiched in between. No matter how far I walked, it felt like I was never going to reach the end. My legs were sore, so I stopped to rest. There were niches in the wall at regular intervals, with Buddha statues inside. I shone my flashlight on a nearby statue. It was about 30 or 40 centimeters tall, brightly colored, and painted with lifelike detail. The more I looked at it, the more familiar it seemed. I stared at it for a moment and then realized it was the monk who had greeted us earlier, the round-faced, big-eared one named Fuyuan. I couldn't help but reach out and touch the statue. The moment I touched the statue's head, I heard a faint click. Then, the ground beneath my feet disappeared. The wooden step I was on vanished in an instant. My body was suddenly airborne. The feeling of weightlessness was immense, and my heart was in my throat. I flailed my arms, trying to brace myself against the walls on either side. The staircase was only about 60 or 70 centimeters wide. In theory, if I could prop my hands and feet against the walls, I could stop my fall. But I don't know what the walls were made of. They were as smooth as if they had been coated in oil. My hands couldn't get a grip at all. I was falling fast, my mind a complete blank. Damn it. I don't know how high I climbed, but falling from this height, even if it didn't kill me, I'd be crippled. Think of something. I reached for my backpack. Halfway there, my hand was suddenly grabbed. My descent stopped abruptly. Due to inertia, my body slammed into the wall. I looked closely and saw a pale hand reaching out from the wall, gripping my wrist. The hand was withered and skeletal, its skin so white it was almost blue. Twisted blue veins stood out on the arm like coiled centipedes. Then a second hand emerged from the wall and grabbed my left leg. More and more hands, like bamboo shoots after a spring rain, reached out from the wall, grabbing at me. These hands were incredibly strong. After grabbing me, they pulled me forcefully into the wall. My back was pressed against the wall, and the intense pressure sent a sharp pain through my back. I could almost hear the cracking sound of my bones being crushed. The pain made me break out in a cold sweat. I was now in a very awkward, difficult situation. Normally, I would use my lightning-struck wood token against these hands, but if I got rid of them, I would fall. It seemed I had only 2 choices: be crushed to death inside the wall, or fall to my death. The pain in my back, legs, and arms intensified. At the peak of the pain, a surge of ferocity rose within me. I formed a lightning seal and shouted, "5 thunders converge, lightning strike now!" A flash of lightning shot out. The ghostly hands holding my arm were severed, black blood flowing from the stumps. Then the blood writhed, and new arms slowly grew out. But my right hand was free. Seizing the opportunity, I formed a Vajra seal with my hand and smashed it against the wall. I hammered it several times. The impact of my knuckles against the wall scraped my skin, drawing blood. My blood amplified the power of the Vajra seal. I struck again with all my might. With a loud boom, the wall shattered, revealing a hole. All the hands on the wall instantly broke off and fell. My body started to fall as well. In the nick of time, my fingers hooked onto the edge of the wall, just barely catching myself. I breathed a sigh of relief, got my other hand up, and with my fingers digging in, I used my feet to push off the wall and climb up. Just as I pulled myself up and my head emerged from the hole, a face suddenly appeared in front of me. He was crouching on the ground, his head tilted, almost face to face with me, nose to nose. I was so startled I almost let go. Tim stared at me with a venomous gaze and a wicked smile. "Go to hell." He stood up and kicked at my head. I relaxed my grip and let my body fall. Tim thought I had fallen and leaned out to look, but my fingertips were still firmly hooked into a crack in the wall. While he was leaning out, I threw a fire talisman upwards. Fwoosh! Tim's entire head of hair caught fire. He screamed and frantically patted his head. Seizing the opportunity, I pushed up with my arms, launched myself upwards, grabbed his collar, and yanked him down hard. Tim was already halfway out of the hole. Pulled by me, he lost his balance and tumbled down. I took the chance to climb into the hole, Sat down to catch my breath, my mind still reeling. What was going on? Why did Tim attack me? Shouldn't he be downstairs with Willow? The staircase could only fit one person, so how did he get up here before me? Wait, no, he didn't seem to have a mole between his eyebrows. This wasn't Tim. Or rather, this was the Tim who led us into the mountains, not the one who was with us just now. Whatever. Thinking about it wouldn't help. Finding Lucy was the priority. I stood up, adjusted the flashlight on my bag, and carefully surveyed the scene. I didn't know which floor of the pagoda this was. It looked no different from the first floor, empty in the middle, with murals and niches all around. I took a step forward, and the floor suddenly gave way beneath me again. Crap. As my body plunged, I was both shocked and panicked, so angry I wanted to scream. But luckily, before I could react, my feet hit the ground. I twisted my ankle and grabbed the wall for support. Looking around, I saw it was a circular pit about a meter in diameter, with wooden walls all around. It was like being inside a giant pipe. The pagoda was pitch black, and the wooden floor was also a dark old color, so I hadn't noticed the pit before and had fallen in. Fortunately, the pit wasn't deep, only up to my head. I jumped, grabbed the edge, and easily climbed out. Once I was on solid ground, I was much more careful. I used my flashlight to meticulously scan the floor, making sure it was solid before moving forward. But unexpectedly, after just a few steps, the wooden plank under my feet suddenly gave way, and my body plunged again. What the hell? I was caught off guard this time and landed hard, my butt aching. I looked up and saw another identical pit. I rubbed my backside and slowly walked over, preparing to climb out as before. Just as my hand reached the floor above, a head suddenly emerged from the wooden wall in front of me. The top of a dark-haired head bumped right into my chest. I instinctively backed away. The head in front of me lifted. It was clearly a young woman. Her eyes were sewn shut with thick stitches, and she had no nose. The lower half of her face was just one giant mouth. The blood-red mouth opened, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Her teeth weren't normal, they were like a shark's, dozens of rows, and she lunged at me. I immediately retreated, but the pit was narrow. As I backed up, my back hit another head. I turned and saw countless heads emerging from the circular wall of the pit, just like the hands outside the wall earlier. I've always been brave, but faced with such a grotesque scene, I couldn't help but feel a surge of panic. Five Thunders command. With a trembling hand, I brandished my lightning-struck wood token, blasting away the heads in front of me. I didn't dare to linger. I scrambled out of the pit. This time, standing on the floor, I didn't dare to move recklessly. But this pagoda didn't play fair. I stood still, but the floor itself started to move. I saw the entire floor begin to rotate. With a series of clicks and clacks, I felt that familiar sense of weightlessness as the floor beneath me disappeared again. Waiting for me at the bottom of the pit were countless hands, just like before. I fought my way out, found an opportunity to escape upwards, and after a few steps, fell into another pit. I felt my consciousness starting to fade. In the dark pagoda, with countless circular pits, it seemed that no matter how you walked or how hard you tried, there was always a bigger pit waiting for you. I can't remember how many times I've fallen. This time in the pit, there were no messy hands, heads, mouths, or tongues. There was only a woman in a white dress with long hair, squatting in the corner with her back to me. I was exhausted. The continuous free falling, the pits on all sides, the complete loss of direction, and the countless lightning spells I had cast had given me a splitting headache. I really wanted to just give up, lie down, and let whatever it was eat me. But I couldn't. The instinct to survive made me force myself to grip my peachwood sword. I walked over to the woman in white and brought the sword down on the back of her head. Her head flinched, and her whole body went stiff. Then she went berserk, screaming and charging at me, beating me wildly. Her face was covered by her hair, and she moved so fast I couldn't see her features clearly. But her fighting style was strangely familiar. It was all dirty tricks, the kind of moves that reeked of a despicable, cunning character. She kicked me several times before I finally managed to pin her to the ground and land a solid punch on her shoulder. Then, before she could retaliate, I feigned surprise. "Hey, Lucy." Lucy's hand stopped midair. The next second, without hesitation, she slapped me right across the forehead. After hitting me, she pretended to be confused and pushed her hair back. "Oh, it's you, Jade." I was furious. "You knew it was me. Why did you still hit me?" Lucy said matter-of-factly. Hey, you know me, I'm a bit slow on the uptake. She pushed me off and sat up. This place is hell. What are you doing here? Where's Sophie? Lucy said that not long after she and Sophie started exploring, they saw Tim. He was acting suspiciously, sneaking towards the back courtyard as if he didn't want to be seen. She and Sophie immediately followed him to the pagoda. The first floor of the pagoda was empty. They heard a noise from above and went up the stairs. After climbing for a while, the floor gave way beneath her, and she nearly fell to her death. It took all my strength to climb back up, only to fall into countless pits. It's so disgusting. Same here. I told Lucy everything that had happened, emphasizing that there was another Tim with me, and he had led us to this pagoda. Lucy frowned. 2 Tims. Oh no, one. One of them tried to kill me just now, but I took care of him, so there should only be one left. I asked Lucy, what do you think he is? He's not a wormgrass and he doesn't have any evil energy. Lucy pressed her temples. Ugh, I don't want to think about it. My head hurts. Let's just get out of here first. Lucy and I climbed out of the pit together. This time we were smarter. We tied a magic rope around our wrists, keeping a distance of about a meter between us. That way, if one of us fell into a pit, the other could immediately pull them up. Even so, we took turns falling into pits several times, and we still couldn't find a way out of this space. I just couldn't figure it out. The pagoda wasn't that big. How could it have so many pits? After falling so many times, we were both exhausted and disheveled. Lucy, in a fit of helpless rage, started to lose it. Let's just burn this whole place down. We haven't found Sophie and Willow yet. We don't even know what floor we're on. If a pagoda this tall burns down, none of us will make it out alive. Lucy, I don't care. I'll take these ghosts down with me. She reached for her talismans. I grabbed her wrist. No, you need to calm down. She can't calm down. A familiar voice suddenly came from behind me. I turned around overjoyed. Sophie. But the next second, my smile froze on my face. My heart clenched, and a chill shot up from my feet, spreading through my entire body. Sophie was standing about 2 or 3 meters behind me, holding hands with Lucy. Both of them looked ragged and disheveled, clearly having just climbed out of a pit. And next to her was another Lucy. So who was the one next to me? The Lucy next to me flew into a rage. Damn it. What kind of monster are you, daring to impersonate me? Sophie on the other side sneered. Stop pretending. You're the fake one. My Lucy got anxious. Sophie, are you an idiot? Don't fall for it. Come over here with us. Sophie frowned. Jade, what are you doing here? I was confused and explained everything that had happened. Sophie nodded. I see. If you trust me, come over here right now. Lucy and I have found the way out. The one next to you is the fake. Hurry up and come over. Sophie waved at me urgently, then pointed to a dark corner, saying that was the direction of the exit. The exit here changed its location every few minutes. She and Lucy had just found it, and if we were any later, we wouldn't be able to get out. Her expression was earnest and urgent. The Lucy next to her also urged me on, her posture and expression identical to the Lucy I knew, making it impossible to tell who was real. I pushed the Lucy next to me. I still trust you. Hurry up and refute them. Me Lucy stammered. You're not actually the fake one, are you? My Lucy exploded. I'll kill you, you fake. She untied the rope from her wrist and charged at the other Lucy, claws out. The other Lucy sneered and met her head on. The fake one is asking for death. The real and fake Lucis were in a tangled brawl. Their movements were identical, the same dirty tricks, the same appearance, the same voice. It was dizzying to watch. After a while, Sophie's Lucy gained the upper hand. Sophie ran over and grabbed my arm. Let's go. Seeing me frozen in place, she stomped her foot in frustration. What are you waiting for? How could the real Lucy lose to a fake? It dawned on me. Oh, that makes sense. I followed Sophie. The 2 Luces stopped fighting. One of them quickly followed us, leaving the other Lucy sitting alone on the floor, her eyes vacant, her expression dejected, muttering to herself, impossible. I can't even beat a fake? Impossible. Jade, the exit is this way. You just have to crawl through this niche. Lucy pointed to a niche that was about half a person tall. As she spoke, she pushed my head down, telling me to go first. Okay. I crouched down, pretending to crawl forward, but I had already gripped the lightning-struck wood token in my hand. My hand was covered in blood from the fight earlier. I took the opportunity to smear it all over the token, then suddenly spun around and smashed the token towards Lucy. 5 Thunders command. Boom. A bolt of lightning as thick as a bowl shot out. Lucy screamed, her body contorting and turning into a black, branch-like object that fell to the ground. Sophie stared at me in shock. Jade, what are you doing? Lucy, she's not Lucy. I nodded. Right. And you're not Sophie either. With that, another bolt of lightning flashed. Sophie screamed and fell to the ground, also turning into a charred branch. Lucy was still sitting on the floor in a daze. I walked over and kicked her. Get up. I've figured out how to get out of here. Lucy's expression was complicated. Wait, how did you know that one was the fake? Isn't it obvious? With your brain, could you have figured out a way out of here first? Lucy's eyes lit up. Oh right. Then she glared at me unconvinced. Then how come you could figure it out? I picked up the dead branch from the ground and snapped it. A bit of green sprouted from the break. I broke off a small piece of the branch and threw it into a pit. The branch quickly sprouted leaves and then disappeared into the wall. I asked Lucy if she remembered what Willow said. Worm grass can regenerate, but it needs soil. Why did we keep falling into pits? And even after we dealt with the monsters inside, there were always more in the next pit, an endless supply. It's because these wooden floors aren't made of wood. They're actually soil, which is why they can sustain so many worm grasses. In other words, we're not on the upper floors of the pagoda. We're probably underground. Lucy's brain couldn't keep up. That's not right. Didn't Willow say this stuff isn't worm grass? She couldn't sense any worm grass aura. She was wrong. This stuff is worm grass, but for some reason we don't know, it's able to hide its aura. I pulled Lucy back to the wall, where there was a large hole I had smashed open earlier. I pointed to the hole. This pagoda was built underground. Our senses are reversed here. To get out, we have to go the opposite way. With that, I gave Lucy a hard push, sending her through the hole. And then I jumped after her. Lucy screamed. Are you insane, you? Lucy opened her eyes and stamped her feet. The feeling of solid ground returned. We were standing face to face at the bottom of the stairs on the first floor of the pagoda, completely unharmed. I demanded, what were you about to say? What about me? Lucy beamed. You're a genius. Sophie was also on the first floor. Seeing us, she rushed over anxiously and hugged Lucy, letting out a series of cries. It turned out she had also missed a step and fallen, but unlike Lucy, she didn't have advanced martial arts skills. She had plunged into the abyss, thinking she was going to die, but then she opened her eyes and was back on the first floor, where she saw Willow and Tim. Hearing this left a bad taste in my mouth. This pagoda was really targeting us, specifically trying to kill me and Lucy, the skilled ones. I handed the withered branch I had brought out to Willow and asked her if it was worm grass. Willow took the branch and examined it, marveling at it. She said it was indeed worm grass, but why did it have no goo worm scent at all? Lucy chimed in. Not only that, when I was fighting the fake Lucy, I pulled her hair. She didn't have any green leaves on her head either. I nodded. This thing is too hard to deal with. Let's find the others first and get out of here. We didn't dare to linger in the pagoda. We opened the main door and had Tim lead us to the meditation cells to find his other companions. The temple's layout was like a 3-courtyard compound. The pagoda was in the innermost part. Outside of that was a courtyard with meditation cells on the east and west sides. Further south was a magnificent main hall, and beyond that was the main gate to leave the temple. Now that Willow had identified the spooky things as worm grass, with the Maiden of the Meow on our side, we didn't hold back. We went for a swift resolution. We each kicked open the door to a meditation cell, shouting for the other companions. Our commotion was so loud that soon, the doors to all the cells in both rows opened. From each room, a dozen or so people walked out, led by a bewildered Tim. Sophie, what are you doing here? I was silent. I counted on my fingers. 1, 2, 3, 8 Tims? Lucy. No, there's also the one next to us. That makes 9. Oh wait, you also killed one in the pagoda, so that's 10. Tim completely lost it, pulling at his hair. Why are there so many of me? Oh my god. What are you things? Every single Tim had a meltdown. Why are there so many of me? Oh my god. What are you things? Sophie, look at me. I'm over here. They're all fake. The exact same words, the exact same gestures. It was dizzying. The four of us instinctively took a step back, distancing ourselves from the Tim next to us. With so many Tims, who knew if this one was real or fake? Tim was on the verge of tears. Sophie, sis, what are you doing? You don't believe me either? Sophie scratched her head in frustration. I'm sorry, but I really don't know who to choose. Lucy suddenly puffed out her chest, volunteering. I know. She charged over and forcefully twisted Tim's arm. Tim yelped in pain. Lucy then cast a lightning spell and zapped him in the head. Tim was almost knocked senseless by the bolt. Lucy let out a relieved, albeit disgusted sigh. This one's real. I fought the worm grass upstairs. Since it's a plant, it's very agile and doesn't feel pain. It can bend its body in all sorts of weird ways, so it's hard to beat with just physical strength. This Tim is so weak, he must be the real one. Tim. Oh, thanks a lot. One Tim was easy to identify, but with hundreds of people below, how were we supposed to accurately find all his companions and rescue them? There was no time to worry about that now. I raised my arm and shouted, everyone who doesn't want to die, follow us. The four of us led the charge out. Among the hundreds of people, some stood there in a daze, some followed us, and some started running with us, only to stop and slowly walk back when they saw the ones who had stayed behind. The scene was chaotic. What's going on? I don't know. Who are these people? Tim said they're here to save us? But there's nothing wrong here. Why do we need saving? Are you an idiot? There are a dozen Tims. You still say nothing's wrong? Look over there. There are a dozen of you too. Aren't those all ghosts? What's wrong with your brain? Oh right. That's terrifying. We have to get out of here. Tim's eyes lit up. Quick, that's Zach. He's real. Zach, get over here. He turned to us and explained. Zach is dumb as a rock. Only he could say something like that. A pale-faced Zach quickly ran over and threw his arms around him in excitement. Bro, you get me. Then he gave us a playful wink, looking all suave. And who might these lovely ladies be? Sophie. Lovely my ass. Let's go. Our group ran frantically outwards. We hadn't gone far when someone in the crowd suddenly screamed. I turned to look and saw a young girl's face starting to melt. Her features disappeared, and black goo dripped onto the ground as she transformed into a mud-like monster. She lunged at the person next to her, black slime extending from her body and wrapping tightly around their face. The person who was caught screamed in agony, their eyes rolling back in their head. It was like a signal. Dozens of people in the crowd began to transform at the same time, all attacking those around them just like the first girl. I immediately stopped. This wasn't right. By the time we reached the main gate, most of these people would be dead. The four of us had gone through so much trouble just to save Tim and Zach. I couldn't accept letting over 20 young lives be lost here. The others clearly realized this too. Willow looked at the massacre before her, a flicker of hesitation in her eyes, which quickly turned to determination. She gritted her teeth, pulled a dagger from her waist, and slashed the back of her hand. Blood spurted out. Willow smeared the blood from 3 of her fingers onto her forehead, then began to beat her chest rhythmically, starting a ritualistic dance. Goo born of 4 corners, souls bewildered, deeds done. Sky Dome renounces karma, 100,000 followers. With my blood, I call your spirits. With my body, I pray for your descent. Willow rhythmically beat her chest, her feet stepping in a seemingly random pattern, her body's movements merging with nature. Her dark hair flew behind her, her expression pious and holy, like a goddess descending. Tim and Zach were stunned. Zach's eyes were wide as saucers. He muttered, a goddess. Gulp. Lucy also swallowed hard, her face full of envy. Jade, why are all her moves so cool? Next time we throw a talisman, can we do a little dance or something? I gave her a disgusted look. What kind of dance could you do? The old lady shuffle. Willow was completely focused on her shamanic dance. The ground beneath her feet trembled in time with her steps. 1 step, 2 steps, one of the mud monsters suddenly exploded. 3 steps, for steps it was like fireworks going off. More and more of the creature's bodies burst, splattering black ooze everywhere. Willow's face was pale. She spun quickly, her white skirt fanning out like a holy snow lotus. Pop! 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 Hundreds of mud monsters exploded, leaving a pile of tangled, dead branches on the ground. Willow's face was ashen. She coughed up a large mouthful of blood and staggered backward. I rushed to support her, but Tim beat me to it, catching her in his arms. Zach was anxious. Hey man, don't steal my thunder. Let me help her. I'll give you my limited edition sports car, the one you've been drooling over forever. Tim gave him a cold, sharp, murderous look. Zach immediately fell silent and took a step back. Why are you being so mean? Because he's not my brother. Sophie pointed into the crowd. My brother is over there. In the crowd, there was another Tim, standing frozen in terror. He looked around and saw that most of the people were dead, with only about 20 left. His mind was a mess. He was so scared he started to cry. Sophie, help. Sophie ran towards him. What are you shouting about? Who told you to run off? Tim, don't talk about that now. Just take me home. I miss my mom. Lucy was still completely confused. That's Tim, so who is this Tim? Willow's eyelashes fluttered as she struggled to open her eyes. These worm grasses have no goo worm aura, because someone with a natural goo body is helping them conceal it. She grabbed Tim's wrist and whispered, Kane. Tim, or rather, Kane, remained expressionless, but his pupils contracted sharply. He slowly released Willow's hand. He didn't confirm or deny it. Instead, he quickened his pace and turned to leave. Kane, where are you going? Willow tried to follow him, but she was exhausted and couldn't even stand steadily. I half carried her, watching as Kane walked back towards the pagoda, his figure disappearing behind the courtyard gate. This was the second time he had refused to communicate with us. Just like last time, his attitude was very cold. This time, he only interacted with us by borrowing Tim's appearance. I couldn't understand what had happened to him. Why would he help conceal the wormgrass's aura and set up this whole situation? Was it to lure us here, to set a trap for us? Had he been converted by Chio's people, and was he trying to harm us? But he hadn't done anything to us along the way. What did he want? Overcome with anxiety, Willow coughed up another mouthful of blood and fell unconscious. I had Lucy carry her while I charged back, planning to find Kane and demand answers. But I had only taken a few steps when the black mud from the exploded monsters began to ooze across the ground, reforming into human shapes. Lucy got anxious. We have to get out of here. Willow's passed out. Without her, how are we supposed to deal with these things? Seeing me still hesitating, Sophie quickly chimed in. Jade, there are still over 20 lives at stake here. My expression hardened, and I stopped. Finding the truth was important. But compared to the situation at hand, lives were more important. Let's go. We left the temple and climbed the stairs back up the mountain. Everyone was exhausted and took a break. Soon, the sky began to brighten. Tim stood up, shocked, and pointed behind me. Look. I turned around. There was no deep pit, no temple, no pagoda. There was only a dilapidated stone monument with 3 large characters carved on it. Sumeru Hall. A corner of the monument was broken, and it exuded an ancient, weathered aura, as if it had been there for a very, very long time. Someone in the crowd let out a sound of realization. Sumeru Hall, I've heard of this place. It was Tim who spoke. Seeing everyone looking at him, he confidently flicked his hair and said that he was a huge research nerd and had thoroughly looked up information about Phoenix Mountain before coming. Phoenix Mountain used to not have a Shao Shitian, only a Sumeru Hall. The name came from the Buddhist concept of Sumeru in a mustard seed. A mustard seed is tiny, and Sumeru is one of the 3 mythical mountains in Buddhism. The phrase means that even in a tiny space, a vast world can exist. This monument is kind of like a gateway to a parallel dimension. In the past, many locals who came to the mountain to cut firewood got lost and said they had entered a temple and were trapped inside for several days before getting out. As more people told the story, the locals thought it was a divine message, telling them to build a temple here. That's how Shao Shitian came to be. Tim patted his chest, still shaken. They call it a sacred Buddhist site, but who knew it was full of monsters? We're lucky we got out alive. I stared at the monument, lost in thought. This place was certainly mysterious. I wondered how Kane had found it. But he had trapped us here, and then done nothing. What was his goal? Coming out of the dense forest, the blue sky above was vast and unobstructed, a perfect, clear blue. Lucy tried to comfort me. Don't think about it too much. See, the sun always comes up. But I can't enjoy this beautiful sky. You know why? Why? Lucy gritted her teeth. I've been carrying Willow this whole time. She's so heavy on my back, I can't even lift my head. Why do you think? She's your best friend. Why don't you carry her? Ow, my ear hurts. I stuck my finger in my ear, then pointed ahead. Look, a car is here to pick us up. I bolted ahead. Zach awkwardly sidled up to Lucy, rubbing his hands together. Lucy, are you tired? Want me to take over? Lucy was furious. What's that supposed to mean? You're looking down on me? I'm a master of ancient martial arts, the lead disciple of the Maoshan sect. You think a little distance like this can tire me out? Get lost. She hitched Willow higher on her back and lifted her head arrogantly. Sophie, let's go. After they were a good distance away, Zach punched a tree trunk. She's so infuriating. She won't give me a chance. Hey, wait for us. Epilogue. Inside the pagoda, Cain knelt before a Buddha statue, his face expressionless. A man in a black cloak stood beside him, one hand on his head. Why didn't you act? Cain's eyes were vacant, his expression blank. I don't know. I couldn't do it. The man's fingers dug into Cain's scalp. Cain's face contorted, his body trembling from the intense pain, but he bit down hard and didn't scream. After a while, the man withdrew his hand. Cain collapsed to the floor, his clothes soaked with cold sweat, looking as if he had just been pulled from the water. The man snorted. We finally found this Sumeru hall and set up a perfect trap to catch them all in one go. And you ruined it. A hoarse laugh suddenly echoed through the darkness. He he he. The man's expression froze. He respectfully stepped aside. Lord Nether. Don't be hasty, he held back several times. The next time, it will be easier to gain their trust. The man laughed along. Yes, yes, of course. I'll have them prepare right away. He took out his phone and made a call. Hey, it's time for you to come out and meet your old friend. When Willow woke up from her coma, she saw me sitting by her bed, my hands in my hair, my teeth clenched, my face streaked with tears. Willow coughed a few times, touched, and reached out to take my arm. Jade, I'm fine. Don't worry too much. My teeth were chattering. Murder, the stock market is murder. 1,000 stocks limit down. There's no justice, no law. I tremblingly dialed customer service. Hello, my child used my account to buy over 100,000 in stocks. She's a minor, an elementary schooler. Can I get a refund? Hello. Hello. Why did you hang up on me? I tried another number. Hello, 911? I've been scammed. After all my efforts failed, I was so angry I went straight to Lucy's and grabbed her by the neck. You monster. Give me back my hard-earned money. Lucy struggled desperately, slapping my arms. Calm down. Listen to me. I got a big job. 1 gig, and I'll make it all back for you. I swear, trust me. Liar. I don't believe you. I was seeing red, still strangling Lucy. She shouted a spell, by the laws and edicts, and slapped a talisman on my forehead. Huh. Why was the talisman red? I looked closer. It was a $100 bill. I immediately let go and happily stuffed the bill into my pocket. Lucy breathed a sigh of relief and quickly backed away. For real, if you come with me to this place, not only will the client pay us a huge sum, but I'll also cover your living expenses for the next year. How about it? Humph. 2 years. Humph. If you humph again, get out. Hee hee, bestie, why would you say that? I linked my arm with Lucy's and peeked at her phone. Where are we going? Lucy. To find out what happens next, you'll have to wait for the next chapter. End of story.